Chapter 1384. Run. After a short silence, the water barbarian army fled in all directions. They were completely frightened and wished their parents had given them 2 more legs. In a moment, the 3 barbarian kings were easily obliterated. It was like a terrible nightmare. Anyone with a normal mind would know that as long as the young man who suddenly fell from the sky was here, there was no need to continue this war. This was the role of the king realm. One person could fight against millions of soldiers. And Lin Sun was not as simple as an ordinary king realm warrior. What are you waiting for? Kill! Zhang Sun Xiong roared with excitement. The war lasted for more than a month. Today, the imperial army was in danger, and the defense line was about to be broken. But at this critical moment, a godlike young man descended from the sky, and with his own strength, he turned the tide with just a few words. How could Zhang Sun Xiong not be excited? Kill! Kill those voodoo barbarian bastards! The imperial army took advantage of the victory and launched a counterattack. The sound of the horn reverberated between heaven and earth. Every soldier of the empire was in high spirits. Child, can I have a word with you? Zhang Sun Xiong looked at Lin Sun with a kind of heartfelt respect. With his experience and vision, he could tell at a glance that Lin Sun was by no means an old monster who had lived for a long time. Because of this, he was more and more shocked. He muttered in his heart, "Is this a little monster cultivated by the Green Deer School of the Empire?" With the upheaval of the world, a large number of amazing young people emerged in the Empire over the years. They rose to the top, stepped into the king realm, and became famous all over the world. More than half of these young people came from the Green Deer School. Therefore, Zhang Sun Xiong had such a speculation. Lin Sun nodded and left the battlefield with Zhang Sun Lai. He had just returned to the mortal world, and there were many things he needed to know. After all, he hadn't come back for more than 10 years. He didn't know what the mortal world had become. In a tent, a banquet was set up. Lin Sun was invited to sit at the top table, accompanied by Zhang Sun Lai. On both sides of the table were the big shots in the northernmost defense line of the empire. "May I know your name, child?" Zhang Sun Lai asked after toasting Lin Sun. "Just call me Lin Shi," Lin Sun said casually. This was his identification number when he was practicing in the bloodthirsty camp. He was also named by this number when he was in the bloodthirsty battlefield. Lin Shi, Zhang Sun Lai repeated silently in his heart and instantly thought of the bloodthirsty camp. But no matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't figure out when there was such a nature-defying young man in the bloodthirsty camp. Lin Sun didn't think so much and said, "General, I have been traveling in the ancient desolation realm these years and just returned today. I don't know the current situation of the empire. Please give me some advice." Traveling in the ancient desolation realm. The hearts of Zhang Sun Lai and everyone present shook fiercely, and only now did they suddenly realize that they'd guessed wrongly. The young man before them had actually returned from the ancient desolation domain. No wonder young Master Lin is so outstanding. You've actually gone to the higher realms to cultivate. Zhang Sun Lai came to a sudden realization. For the big shots of the empire, they more or less knew about the existence of the ancient desolation realm. It was regarded as the holy land for cultivation, and every cultivator dreamed of going there. But Lin soon returned to the lower realms from the ancient desolation realm, which made people present look at him differently. They all knew that almost no one who could go to the ancient desolation realm from the lower realms for cultivation was simple. In the following chat, Lin Sun also roughly learned some things about the lower realms. For example, the impact of the upheaval of heaven and earth on the territory of the empire. For example, the riots and turbulence caused by the rampant demon beasts in the territory of the empire. For example, the full-scale battlefield set off by the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians had spread to all the major border areas of the empire. In the end, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. After leaving for more than 10 years, the lower realms had become different from before. At least, when he left, the empire was still in a peaceful situation. But now, there were internal and external troubles, and there were constant military and man-made disasters. All of this, in the final analysis, was because of the upheaval of heaven and earth. As early as when he left the ancient Desolation realm, Lin Sun had heard about the upheaval of heaven and earth. He even knew that the so-called upheaval of heaven and earth was actually a variable after the advent of the Great World. But unlike the ancient Desolation realm, the situation of the empire in this Great World was not optimistic. The demon beasts were rampant inside, and the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians were invading the border. It could be said that the empire was in turmoil. "General, goodbye." After the banquet, Lin Sun immediately said goodbye. Over the years, there had been too many changes in the lower realms. Lin Sun planned to return to the Forbidden City as soon as possible to see the situation of the Lin family in Heart-Cleansing Peak. At the same time, he also wanted to know the truth of the Lin family's murder case. Zhang Sun Xiong and others went together. They saw Lin Sun off in person. Watching Lin Sun's figure disappear in the distant sky, a powerful middle-aged man suddenly said, "I remember that about 16 years ago, the head of the Lin family in the Forbidden City, the young man who was regarded as the crown of the whole capital, left the lower realms and went to the ancient Desolation realm for cultivation." His words made other people squint their eyes. They all remembered that there was a monstrous figure in the Lin family in those days. He rose strongly in the Forbidden City, where there were many powerful families and experts by his own strength. The younger generation might have long forgotten his deeds, but for Zhang Sun Xiong and the others, they would never forget how the young man made a name for himself in the Forbidden City at that time. "You said that the person just now was probably Lin Sun?" Zhang Sun Xiong's eyes flickered. The powerful middle-aged man nodded. "More than 10 years ago, I once served in the bloodthirsty battlefield and heard of the name Lin Shi. But at that time, Lin Shi was only in Tao Insight Realm, so when I saw the man just now, I couldn't believe it. After all, the gap between the realms was too big." Zhang Sun Xiong and others nodded. The gap between them wasn't just huge. In a short period of over 10 years, he'd leaped from the Heavenly Insight Realm to become a peerlessly formidable King Realm expert. This was undoubtedly unbelievable. If Lin Shi is really the head of Heart-Cleansing Peak, I'm afraid that the Forbidden City will be turned upside down when he comes back this time. Someone's eyes were full of surprise. Zhang Sun Xiong frowned. "What do you mean?" A few years ago, there was a news in the Forbidden City that the connection between the lower realms and the ancient Desolation realm was completely cut off because of the upheaval in the world. The practitioners of the Empire who entered the ancient Desolation realm in the past could never return to the lower realms in this life. The man said in a deep voice, "Because of this news, the situation of the Lin family in Heart-Cleansing Peak has become delicate. They all know that Lin Sun is the pillar of the Lin family. If he can't return in this life, what do you think the clansmen of the Lin family will think?" The eyes of Zhang Sun Xiong and others all flickered. Of course, they understood that if a big force had no pillar, it was like a group of dragons without a head. It was destined to be attacked by the storms of all directions. If that's all, it's okay. If Lin Sun is here, the enemies of the Lin family can be deterred. But if he is not here, how can those enemies miss such a chance to retaliate against the Lin family? The man sighed. "As far as I know, the Lin family's life has become more and more difficult in recent years." "Does the Lin family have a lot of enemies?" Someone was stunned. "Have you forgotten that Lin Sun has offended several of the 7 top aristocratic forces?" Everyone couldn't help but sigh at this. When Lin Sun rose in the Forbidden City, there were too many enemies. Among the 7 top aristocratic forces, there were Zhua, Qin, Qi, Hua, Song and Xie. If that's the case, I'm afraid that the Forbidden City will be turned upside down, Zhang Sun Xiong murmured. When he thought of the scene that Lin Sun killed the 3 barbarian kings, he felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. If such a powerful young man knew the current situation of the Lin family, he would definitely set off a monstrous bloody storm. The world was boundless. The vast universe arc turned into a stream of light and went all the way south. On the treasure ship, Lin Sun, Old Toad and Zhao Jingxian were talking. The power between heaven and earth is indeed different. The spiritual qi is dozens of times richer than when I was in the Empire. Lin Sun clicked his tongue in wonder. The breath of the Great Way has also become more vigorous, which makes it easier for practitioners to perceive, Zhao Jingxian nodded. It's just that it's still far inferior to the absolute summit domain. Speaking of this, Old Toad suddenly frowned. Have you noticed that there's an indescribable oppressive power in the power of rules between heaven and earth, which makes me a little uncomfortable? Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian looked at each other and nodded. If I'm right, this is the power of the will of heaven and earth in the mortal world. The stronger you are, the clearer you can feel it. Once your cultivation reaches a certain limit, you are bound to be suppressed and erased by this will of heaven and earth. Old Toad muttered, I suspect that the limit that the will of heaven and earth in the mortal world can bear is below the Saint Realm. Once you enter the Saint Realm, you will not be tolerated by the will of heaven and earth because the destructive power of the Saint Realm is too great and the consequences of battle are too terrifying. This was actually very easy to understand. If the mortal world was a pond, then the Saint Realm was a true dragon. How could a small pond withstand the torment of a true dragon? The existence of the will of heaven and earth would not allow a behemoth like a true dragon to appear in the pond. That's not necessarily true. Lin Sun shook his head. He remembered what Meng Qiujing had said. The quasi-emperor called Ba Qi had once descended to the mortal world with Yun Qin Bai. Moreover, Ba Qi had said that there was a true emperor lying dormant in the mortal world. The emperor realm was above the saint realm. If the mortal world did not tolerate him, how could he possibly appear in the mortal world? There had to be some kind of mystery behind this. Big brother, I can't accompany you to the Forbidden City, Old Toad suddenly said. I want to go back to the burial of Tao Si in the Soul Oblivion Sea. I woke up there. I want to find some truth. Lin Sun was stunned. When it came to the burial of Tao Si, he couldn't help but think of the mysterious and strange blind monk and the misty figure of the misty girl. Chapter 1385. Lin Sun pondered and said, Okay, let's make it half a year. If you don't come to the Forbidden City to find me, I'll go to the Tao Burial Sea grave to find you. Even though he was at the peak of the 7 tribulations of Longevity Realm, Lin Sun still couldn't see through such a strange place like the Tao Burial Sea grave. It was too mysterious, and there were many strange and ominous things there. Don't worry, I grew up in that damn place. I'm leaving. Old Toad waved his hand with a smile, then jumped up and soared into the sky. His green robe fluttered in the wind, looking extremely handsome. Cocky, Zhao Jingxian sneered. Lin Sun couldn't help but laugh. Old Toad had always been like this. Do you want to visit my parents when we return to the Forbidden City? Only Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian were left on the treasure ship. Zhao Jingxian hesitated for a moment, but still asked with a trace of uneasiness in her clear eyes. She was as beautiful as a painting, with fair and delicate facial features. Her long black hair fluttered in the wind, like a fairy in the horizon. Lin Sun was startled and said, Of course. I came back this time because I have something to ask Uncle Zhao. Zhao Jingxian nodded and didn't say anything more. Lin Sun suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed Zhao Jingxuan's hands, and said seriously, Jingxian, I want to wait for Xia Ji to come back before thinking about our relationship. Well, this girl has always been very special if, Zhao Jingxian said, No need to say more, I understand. Her pretty face was a little hot, and she lowered her head slightly, not daring to look at Lin Sun. Her delicate body was a little stiff and caught off guard when her hands were grabbed by Lin Sun. If she remembered correctly, This was the first time Lin Sun had taken the initiative. Lin Sun keenly noticed that Zhao Jingxuan's crystal and cute ears were red, as if dyed with a layer of magnificent red clouds. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, obviously a little nervous. Lin Sun suddenly had an impulse to lean over and kiss Zhao Jingxuan's white and smooth forehead. At that moment, Zhao Jingxuan's body suddenly stiffened, and her clear eyes widened. An electric current seemed to flash through her heart. She seemed to be stunned there, like a dumb goose. Lin Sun couldn't help laughing. He didn't expect that Zhao Jingxian, who had always been carefree and clear, would have such a cute look. Bang! Suddenly, Zhao Jingxian broke free from Lin Sun's hands and punched Lin Sun's chest with her pink fist. She said angrily, "Why are you still laughing? Is it funny?" Lin quickly restrained his smile and said seriously, "It's not funny at all." Zhao Jingxian glared at Lin Sun fiercely, and then couldn't help laughing. She said angrily, "You are so shameless." Saying that, she stood up, her face bright red, and flew into the cabin of the ship. Lin Sun couldn't help laughing again. Shameless? If I don't take the initiative, am I still a man? After half an hour, Lin Sun finally felt the turbulence in the territory of the Empire. It was a village, yet it was covered in a scene of desolation. Corpses of the elderly, women, children, young adults, all of them were lying in disorder on the ground. Their deaths were very tragic. Some had their stomachs cut open, some had their bodies torn apart, some had their hearts dug out, and some had their heads broken. The sunset glow was a reference. A few vultures descended from the sky, gnawing on the carrion. On the branches a few crows cawed. Whoosh! The vast universe arc stopped over the village. Lin Sun stood at the bow and looked down. In an instant, he judged that all the villagers in the village were killed by the demon beast. Even though Lin Sun was accustomed to life and death, he couldn't help frowning when he saw these innocent, ordinary people suffering such a bloody massacre. A chill flashed in his eyes. Boom! Lin Sun waved his sleeves. In the village, the flames were burning fiercely, turning the corpses all over the ground into ashes and vanishing. Not long after leaving the village, the outline of a city came into view in the distance. But when Lin Sun looked at it from a distance, he noticed that the city was full of blood, mixed with a strong and monstrous demon aura. He remembered what Zhang Sun Xiong once said, "Over the years, with the upheaval of the world, many demon beasts have appeared in the territory of the Empire. They run amok, kill, loot and commit all kinds of crimes. They have become the biggest internal trouble of the Empire. Many cities have been occupied by demon beasts." "It seems that things are more serious than I thought," Lin Sun frowned. "Let's go and have a look." At an unknown time, Zhao Jingxian had also walked out of the cabin. Her pretty face was already carrying a hint of coldness. "Okay," Lin Sun agreed. With a whoosh, the vast universe arc rushed out and arrived in front of the city in a moment. The city wall had long been broken and collapsed, stained with scarlet blood. Thousands of corpses were piled up near the city wall. It could be vaguely recognized that they were the corpses of human practitioners. A picture emerged in Lin Sun's mind. Countless demon beasts were running amok, sweeping towards the city like a tide. The practitioners in the city tried their best to resist, but to no avail. They were killed mercilessly. Then the city was breached. Those who fled, and those who died. Damn it! Zhao Jingxian clenched her hands, and her clear eyes were full of killing intent. She was the daughter of the current emperor of Xiao Empire. When she saw such a scene, it could be imagined how angry she would be. "Let's go and have a look in the city." Lin Sun patted her on the shoulder to comfort her. Putting away the vast universe arc, they walked into the city side by side. They saw that the originally bustling streets in the city had long been deserted. The row upon row of buildings were mostly dilapidated and collapsed, and the people were all gone. Corpses lying in pools of blood could be seen everywhere in the streets and alleys. The whole city was like a purgatory, showing a scarlet and bloody scene. Are the practitioners of the empire all idiots? Why do they just watch the city being slaughtered? Zhao Jingxian couldn't help saying with a murderous look. I can only say that the disaster caused by the demon beasts should be more serious than we think. Lin Sun pondered. In addition, the border of the empire is also invaded by the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians. It can be said that there are internal and external troubles. I'm afraid that the imperial army can't completely settle such a situation in a short time. Zhao Jingxian also admitted that what Lin Sun said was reasonable, but she couldn't control her anger. For her, Xiao Empire was like her home. How could she not be angry when she saw such a tragedy? Let's go and vent our anger. Lin Sun also noticed that Zhao Jingxian was in a bad mood. Then he grabbed her hand and flashed into the city. A mansion covering an area of thousands of acres was located in the southwest of the city. It should be the residence of a big family. There were pavilions, lakes, and waterside pavilions in the mansion. The scenery was picturesque. There was also a medicinal garden and a spirit field. A spirit spring flowed and watered the plants nearby. But now, this luxurious mansion had long been ruined, and traces of burning, killing, and looting could be seen everywhere. Crack! Crack! A group of golden-furred giant rats were gnawing some bones. Their sharp fangs were stained with blood, which looked extremely ferocious. On the other side, a group of small demons in human form were carrying goods, including medicine refining furnaces and valuable furnishings. Hurry up, we must go back to the mountain before sunset. Take everything that can be taken away. A slender young man in a gorgeous robe stood not far away and gave out orders loudly. Hey hey, the skin and flesh of a teenage girl are the most tender, and they are the most appetizing. A hedgehog-like demon was lying on one side, holding a white and tender arm and tasting it little by little. Blood flowed from its lips. Wrong, babies are the most delicious. The meat is clean. It's a supreme delicacy. Next to him, a small demon with a leopard head commented seriously. When Lin Sun appeared here with Zhao Jingxian, he saw such a scene. Even though he was used to life and death and cruel things, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel a killing intent when he saw such a scene. As for Zhao Jingxian, she seemed to be a little unbelievable. Her face was suddenly covered with a layer of haze, and her starry eyes were cold. Hey, someone is coming! Suddenly, the leopard-head demon shouted. Suddenly, many people looked at Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian, who suddenly came. It's a practitioner. The skinny young man in a gorgeous robe narrowed his eyes and seemed to be a little surprised, because this city had been slaughtered many days ago and occupied by them. Unexpectedly, there were still people who dared to appear here today. What a beautiful girl, I just don't know how to taste. The hedgehog-like demon stared at Zhao Jingxian with his eyes wide open, and his saliva almost flowed out. Before he finished speaking, Zhao Jingxian had already made her move. The anger in her heart was completely ignited at this moment, and her whole body emitted a terrifying aura that covered the entire mansion. A group of evil beasts, all of you deserve to die. Zhao Jingxuan's face was as cold as frost, and she spoke word by word. With a rumble, the sky full of thunder and lightning fell from the sky, controlled by her, and attacked those demon beasts. There was no suspense in the outcome. With Zhao Jingxuan's supreme power of the second tribulation of the longevity realm, just the power emitted from her body was enough to make all the demon beasts present collapse and tremble. Not to mention escaping, they couldn't even use the strength to resist. In the end, except for the young man in a gorgeous robe, all the demon beasts were killed in the coldest way, not even dregs were left. But Zhao Jingxian still seemed to be angry, and her face was very cold. Tell me, who's your leader? Lin Sun asked. Beside him, the young man in a gorgeous robe knelt on the ground with a pale face. He was so scared that he couldn't even say a word. Master, let me do it. Silver rushed out and drilled into the young man's mind. After a while, Silver rushed out and said, This group of evil beasts are subordinates of a self-proclaimed Fire Vine King, who is entrenched in the depths of a mountain 3,000 miles away from this city. He controls 30,000 demons and occupies the mountain as the king. Soon, Silver told him all the information about the Fire Vine King. Puff. Lin soon killed the young man in a gorgeous robe without hesitation, and the latter showed his original form, which was a gray fox with a flowery face. Do you want to meet this Fire Vine King? Lin Sun looked at Zhao Jingxian. P.S. Asking for subscriptions and monthly tickets. Don't worry, the Goldfish will release 5 chapters the day after tomorrow. Chapter 1386. Unexpectedly, Zhao Jingxian shook her head and said, No, killing a Fiery Vine King can't change the situation facing the Empire today. On the contrary, it will alert the enemy. She took a deep breath and said firmly, When I return to the Forbidden City, I will learn the news about the demon plague of the Empire as soon as possible. Once I take action, I will wipe out all these evil creatures with the momentum of plowing the courtyard and sweeping the cave. There was a touch of appreciation in Lin Sun's eyes, and he said, I support you. At this time, it was really rare for Zhao Jingxian to keep calm and consider the overall situation. Let's go. Zhao Jingxian was eager to return to the Forbidden City. Okay. Immediately they set off. On the way, they encountered some areas ravaged by demon beasts one after another. Some cities were even destroyed, leaving only ruins on the ground. It was just like that to say that people were plunged into misery and suffering. However, the closer they were to the core area of the Empire, there were fewer traces of demon beasts along the way. This was because every city was garrisoned with an elite army of cultivators from the Empire. Moreover, some large clans and forces had banded together to resist and counterattack. This made Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian breathe a sigh of relief. The situation was not too bad for the Empire. However, what they saw along the way still made them feel that there was an undercurrent of tension and killing in the prosperous and bustling darkness. The Empire would not be peaceful as long as the demon beasts were not eliminated. One day later, in the distance, a towering and ancient city stood there. Surging purple energy rose above the city, and under the sunlight, the entire city was dyed in a layer of magnificent and divine purple-gold color. It was grand and magnificent, as if it had existed since ancient times. The Forbidden City. After more than 10 years, Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian couldn't help being in a trance when they returned and saw the first city of the Empire. Now I find that this city is connected with the Qi of crepe myrtle in the sky and the feng shui of the 4 poles. It has the momentum of covering all directions. It can be called the creation of heaven and earth and the workmanship of the god. With his hands behind his back, Lin Sun's black eyes sparkled. His current cultivation had long been different from that of the past. At a glance, he could see that the huge Forbidden City was actually a huge blessed place, and the layout was orderly, with many hidden mysteries. It was extremely amazing to draw the momentum of heaven and earth. Of course, this is the imperial capital, the heart of a nation. Of course it's not simple. Zhao Jingxian grinned. Let's go. Lin Sun took a deep breath. He was finally back, which made him feel relaxed and happy like a tired bird returning to its nest. Zhao Jingxian nodded and flew away with Lin Sun. Along the way, Lin Sun thought of Lin Zhong, Yang Ku, Vulture, Zhu Laosan and other old friends. He also thought of his childhood friends such as Ning Meng, Shi Yu, and Yi Qi. How are they doing now? What changes had taken place on Heart-Cleansing Peak over the years? After passing through the towering ancient city gate that was 300 meters tall, the first thing that entered his eyes was the bustling streets, the bustling crowd, and the clamorous and bustling noise. As before, the Forbidden City was always so prosperous and lively. Both Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian restrained their breath and walked side by side on the street. Looking at the familiar scenes in front of them, their thoughts were flying. I'm going home. Before long, Zhao Jingxian stopped and looked into the distance. There was a continuous ancient building with red walls and golden tiles, exuding brilliant air. That was the Imperial Palace. Go ahead. It's time for me to go back and have a look. Remember to find me at Heart Cleansing Peak if you need anything. Lin Sun said with a smile. Okay. Zhao Jingxian nodded, waved her hand with a smile, and turned away. Watching Zhao Jingxian leave, Lin Sun took a deep breath and walked alone on the bustling street towards the location in his memory. Heart Cleansing Peak of Lin family was one of the 72 peaks of the aristocratic family. It was one of the top blessed places in the Forbidden City. Lin Sun naturally couldn't remember the location wrong. But halfway through, when passing by a restaurant, a noisy conversation attracted Lin Sun's attention. Lin family is coming to an end. If the crime of treason is confirmed, all the members of the family will be executed. Isn't it just a demonic cultivator raised by Lin family defected? How can the whole Lin family be accused of treason? Oh, you don't understand. If you want to blame someone, you can always find a pretext. What the hell is going on? It's said that a powerful man has set his eyes on the heart-cleansing peak of Lin family. The world has changed dramatically, so that the 72 peaks of the aristocratic family have become a real treasure land. Who wouldn't be jealous of it? It's also rumored that it's because the young patriarch of Lin family offended too many great forces in the past. Isn't it said that Lin family is protected by the royal family? You don't understand. Over the years, Zhao Jingwen, the third prince, has been supervising the country and handling government affairs. As far as I know, Zhao Jingwen has a close relationship with the Zhuo family and the Qin family. If the Zhuo family and the Qin family want to deal with Lin family, how can the royal family protect Lin family? Humph, you're all wrong. If the patriarch of Lin family, who was famous in the capital, was still alive, who dared to hurt Lin family? Unfortunately, everyone knows that after the upheaval, the patriarch of Lin family who went to the ancient desolation domain for cultivation is doomed to never return. There was a lot of discussion. Lin Sun's eyes gradually became cold, and the joy of returning home in his heart disappeared. Treason? What a big crime! It seems that Lin family hasn't had a good time during my absence these years. Lin Sun frowned. It was a pity that Lin Sun couldn't get any more information from those conversations. He took a deep breath, and his expression became calm as he walked into the distance. No matter what had happened to Lin family in these years, he couldn't ignore it now that he was back. On the street, a chariot passed by Lin Sun. Immediately, the chariot stopped abruptly and a surprised voice came out. Patriarch? Lin Sun stopped and looked back. He saw a young man in a jade robe jumping out of the chariot and looking at him incredulously. Lin Sun immediately recognized him. Lin Xiefeng. This man was originally the legitimate son of Lin Huiyuan, the patriarch of Northlight Lin. Since Lin Sun unified the 4 branches of Lin family, Lin Xiefeng had been working on Heart Cleansing Peak. Moreover, Lin Xiefeng was also one of the first people who surrendered to Lin Sun. Xiefeng, long time no see. Lin Sun smiled slightly. Even if he was worried about Lin family's current situation and safety, Lin Sun also knew that he couldn't be anxious before he figured out the situation. Patriarch, it's really you. Lin Xiefeng shouted excitedly and lost control of his emotions. For more than 10 years, he thought he would never see the patriarch he admired in his life. Who would have thought that he would meet him at this moment? It made him feel like he was dreaming. Lin Sun patted him on the shoulder and said, "Calm down first, and then tell me what happened to Lin family these years." Lin Xiefeng nodded and took a few deep breaths to completely stabilize his emotions. He glanced around the street and said, "Patriarch, this is not the place to talk." As he said, he invited Lin Sun to the chariot. Sitting in the chariot, Lin Sun had a bad premonition as he looked at Lin Xiefeng's worried face. "Go ahead. I've heard some discussions about Lin family on the way." Lin Sun's calm momentum made Lin Xiefeng calm down a lot. He said, since the upheaval happened, the situation of Lin family has become bad. There was an unspeakable bitterness in his voice. Lin Sun narrowed his black eyes and asked in confusion, is there anyone in the empire who dares to embarrass Lin family? After all, before he left the empire all those years ago, he'd already swept away all obstacles for the Lin clan, and he'd suppressed the 7 great clans to the point they had no choice but to exercise forbearance for fear of harming the innocent. Hua family, Song family and Qi family even resolved some misunderstandings and grievances with Lin Sun in front of the dean of Green Deer School. In addition, when Lin Sun left, bloodthirsty Lord Zhao Tai promised to protect Lin family. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun couldn't imagine who in the Forbidden City dared to hurt Lin family. When you were in the Forbidden City, there was no such thing. But in these years, all the news spread. You can't return from the ancient desolation realm in this life, so Lin Xiefeng sighed. Before he finished his words, Lin Sun had roughly understood. He had left the mortal world for more than 10 years. When there was news that he would never return, how could those forces who were hostile to Lin family remain indifferent? As early as a long time ago, Lin Sun had understood that as long as he was in the Forbidden City, no one dared to hurt Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak. Even those top aristocratic families could only pinch their noses and bear it. In addition, with the help of bloodthirsty Lord Zhao Tai, no one would dare to hurt Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak. But if Lin Sun couldn't return in this life, all this would change. That was how people were cold when they left. Doesn't Zhao Tai, the old fox, care about it? Lin Sun frowned. Lin Xiefeng smiled bitterly and shook his head. When the upheaval happened, bloodthirsty Lord Zhao Tai left the empire in a hurry. Before he left, he specially told me that if Lin family was in trouble, I could ask for help from Zhao Jingwen, the 3rd prince. Zhao Jingwen? Lin Sun frowned. He vaguely remembered this person. When he was a teacher in Green Deer School, Zhao Jingwen seemed to be an excellent student in Hidden Dragon Institute. Yes, in these years, the Emperor and the Empress have not shown up. Zhao Jingwen, the 3rd prince, has been in charge of the country and handling the state affairs. Lin Xiefeng said with a trace of helplessness in his eyes, but when we asked for help from the 3rd prince, we were repeatedly refused. He didn't care about the life and death of Lin family at all. Lin Sun didn't feel too angry about this. After all, it was unreliable to rely on external forces. It was not impossible to be refused when asking for help. Immediately, he asked, what's the rumor that Lin family committed treason? P.S. Thank you for the monthly tickets of friends, such as Shui runs. Chapter 1387. This is the conspiracy of Zhuo family and Qin family. When he heard the word, treason, Lin Xiefeng was so angry that he trembled all over. They are going to destroy Lin family completely and occupy Heart-Cleansing Peak as their own. With that, he told the ins and outs of the matter one by one. 10 years ago, the upheaval broke out completely, which changed the situation of the empire. Since then, the Emperor and the Empress had never shown up. The 3rd prince, Zhao Jingwen, was in charge of the empire and handled the government affairs. Then, the demon beasts broke out in the empire. They occupied the cities of the empire, burned, killed and looted, which became a major internal trouble in the empire. Then, the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians took the opportunity to besiege the major border areas of the empire, which became a major foreign trouble. From then on, the situation in the empire fell into a state of turmoil. From then on, Zhuo family and Qin family were ordered to summon the powerful forces in the Forbidden City of the empire to suppress the demon beasts and resist the foreign enemies. As a middle-level force in the Forbidden City, Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak naturally answered the call. Originally, it was not a big deal to kill enemies for the empire. But under the control of Zhuo family and Qin family, almost all the disciples of Lin family were sent to the most tragic and dangerous areas to kill the enemies. In just a few short years, half of the Lin family's strength had been lost, and their vitality had been greatly damaged. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Lin Sun's eyes. They used the power in their hands to consume the power of Lin family under the guise of killing enemies for the empire. If this was a conspiracy, the intention was too vicious. However, it's impossible for them to defeat our Lin family like this. Lin Xiefeng continued, although many disciples of Lin family have been killed in these years of killing and suffering, there are also many people who rose in fighting and became strong in blood. Moreover, with Mr. Vulture in charge of the overall situation, the core strength of Lin family has not suffered any loss. But recently, Red Eagle King was regarded as a traitor of the Empire by an old monster of King Realm of Zhou family when he went to the battlefield to kill the demon beasts. I don't know whether he is still alive or not. Lin Xiefeng's eyebrows showed an indescribable anger. Red Eagle King has been loyal and devoted to our Lin family over the years. He has killed countless demon beasts. How could he betray us? Lin Sun recalled that when he returned to the Empire from the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea, he had subdued the Red Eagle King who jumped out to provoke him. Since then, Red Eagle King was regarded as a protector of Heart Cleansing Peak by Lin Sun and had been serving Lin family of Heart Cleansing Peak. When Lin Sun went to the ancient Desolation Realm, the Red Eagle King made a vow that he would never regret serving Lin Sun as his master and would follow Lin Sun for the rest of his life. How could such a loyal and devoted demonic cultivator become a traitor? Because of this, the Zhou family is using us to accuse the Lin family of treason. Now the Zhou family and the Qin family are seizing all the time they have to frame the Lin family with the word treason, so that they can destroy us. Speaking of this, Lin Xiefeng was so angry that his teeth were almost broken and his eyes were red. I see Lin Sun looked calm, but his eyes became colder and colder. First, they used the pretext of serving the Empire to kill the enemy to consume the power of the Lin family, which made the Lin family suffer a great loss. After that, he used the Crimson Eagle King as a bait to pin the label of treason on the Lin clan. Such methods couldn't be described with just the words vicious and shameless. Why did the Zhou family and the Qin family dare to do this? It was simple. They thought that Lin Sun could never return to the mortal world in this life. In addition, the bloodthirsty Lord Zhao Tailai was not there, and the third Prince Zhao Jingwen refused to provide protection for the Lin family, so the Zhou family and the Qin family dared to be so fearless. Thinking of this, Lin Sun felt a chill on his back. It was really not easy to return from the ancient Desolation Realm this time. Because of the coming of the Great Era, the void tunnel leading to the mortal world had collapsed. If he hadn't gone to the Cloud Weaver tribe for help, he would not have been able to return at all. It could be imagined that if he didn't return in time this time, the Lin family would suffer a real disaster. Lin Xiefeng said, I just planned to go to the Imperial Palace to see the third Prince Zhao Jingwen again, hoping to get the intervention of the royal family so that the crime of treason would not fall on our head. But now you are back, everything is up to you. See the third prince? No need. Lin Sun said flatly. Just now on the street, even some passers-by knew that Zhao Jingwen was on good terms with the Zhou family and the Qin family. How could he stand up for the Lin family at this time? According to Lin Xiefeng, Zhao Tailai, the bloodthirsty lord, had specially told Lin Xiefeng to ask Zhao Jingwen for help if the Lin family was in trouble. But the result was that they were repeatedly refused. Lin Sun had to doubt whether Zhao Jingwen also played a role in adding fuel to the fire in the dark in this conspiracy against Lin Sun. In addition to the Zhou family and the Qin family, are there any other forces involved? Lin Sun asked with no expression on his face and no sadness in his eyes. Lin Xiefeng shook his head. I don't know, but I'm sure that even if other forces didn't participate in it, I'm afraid they are waiting to see our Lin family become a joke. Lin Sun nodded and asked again, what's the situation of the Lin family now? Is there any sign of unrest inside? No. With Mr. Vulture and Grandad Zhong in charge, Our Lin family has long been united and determined to live and die with heart-cleansing peak. Lin Xiefeng said quickly. Lin Sun breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's good." Before, he was really worried that in the face of such a dangerous situation, there would be many changes inside the Lin family and the people would be distracted, so that there would be another rebellion like that in the past. After a moment of silence, Lin Sun's eyes flashed with a touch of determination and coldness. "It's time to solve this grievance." His voice was flat, but it was full of invisible killing intent, which made Lin Xiefeng hold his breath and almost collapse his mind. He couldn't help being shocked. After more than 10 years, how terrible the cultivation of the patriarch had reached. "How about taking a walk with me and having a look at the night of the Forbidden City?" Suddenly, Lin Sun said. "Okay." Even though he felt strange, Lin Xiefeng nodded. Immediately, they got off the chariot and walked on the bustling street. Lin Sun looked calm with his hands behind his back. His eyes were as deep as the abyss, looking into the distance. Under the curtain of night, 72 peaks of the Forbidden City were suspended in the void, like cities in the air, flowing with clouds and light rain of various colors, which was like a dream. The most powerful forces in the Forbidden City were gathered in each of the peaks. Among them were the 7 upper-class clans, as well as a series of mid-class clans. When Lin Sun first arrived in the Forbidden City, the Lin family had already declined. There were internal and external troubles. Only Lin Zhong was left on the huge heart-cleansing peak. In the following years, after several twists and turns, Lin Sun fought his way out of the predicament and finally unified the Lin family. His prestige shocked the Forbidden City and forced the 7 top aristocratic families to hold their noses and bear it, not daring to make trouble again. But at this moment, Lin Sun completely knew that enemies were enemies after all. Maybe they would be afraid and bear it, but when you showed a little flaw, they would not hesitate to pounce on you and bite you hard. Just like now, if they didn't think that he could not return from the ancient desolation realm, how could the Zhuo and Qin families have the courage to deal with the Lin family? It was time to solve this hatred completely. Lin Sun became more and more determined. At that time, the reason why he didn't completely destroy those enemies of the Lin family was that he was not strong enough to flatten those superior forces. But now it was different. "Xiefeng, let's go back to heart-cleansing peak." Lin Sun stopped. He had seen enough of the night of the Forbidden City. When Lin Sun and Lin Xiefeng sat in the chariot, an old man on the street happened to see Lin Sun. His face suddenly changed and his eyes were fixed on Lin Sun. It must be him, Lin Sun, the head of heart-cleansing peak, who was famous in the capital, is back? After a while, the old man murmured. Watching the treasured carriage gradually disappear into the distance on the bustling street under the night sky, the old man felt a tempestuous storm in his heart. The old man was a spiritual tattooist in the commune of spiritual tattooists. His name was He Yanqiu. He had seen Lin Sun several times in those years, so he was familiar with Lin Sun's appearance. Because of this, he was extremely surprised when he confirmed Lin Sun's identity at this time. Because everyone in the Forbidden City knew that Lin Sun could not return from the ancient desolation realm, the Lin family began to be in trouble. At that time, the Lin family rose from a declining family and forced the 7 top aristocratic forces to bear with it. In the process, the Lin family had offended many people. When Lin Sun was still alive, the Lin family had no worries. But once he disappeared, the situation of the Lin family changed completely. First, the Zhuo and Qin families joined hands to suppress the Lin family. Then when they learned that the Lin family was disliked by the 3rd prince, Zhao Jingwen, who was now in charge of the empire, some forces who had been on good terms with the Lin family also chose to draw a clear line with the Lin family. After this series of events, everyone in the Forbidden City knew that the Lin family was about to collapse. They had no relatives and no help. At that time, He Yanqiu still sighed with emotion that the world was changeable when people left. He felt sorry for the Lin family. It was said that the Lin family was also accused of treason. Once it was confirmed, the whole Lin family, men and women, old and young, would be implicated. It was possible that the whole family would be exterminated. This matter was now in an uproar in the Forbidden City, and was the focus of attention of all. But Yenshu never thought that. Tonight, the head of Heart-Cleansing Peak, who was regarded as impossible to return, came back again. After tonight, the Forbidden City will be overturned. Yenshu looked up at the sky and had a strong premonition in his heart. At the same time, Lin Sun and Lin Xiefeng had come to the gate of Heart-Cleansing Peak. P.S. According to the agreement, Goldfish will release 5 chapters tomorrow. Please wait and see. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and vote. Chapter 1388. Lin Sun was in a trance as he walked up Heart-Cleansing Peak step by step along the familiar path. After more than 10 years, many changes had taken place on Heart-Cleansing Peak. Many sceneries seemed familiar, and many new palaces and pavilions appeared. Lin Sun clearly remembered that when he set foot on Heart-Cleansing Peak for the first time, it was desolate. It wasn't easy for us to have such a scene. How can it be destroyed just like this? Lin Sun murmured. He had poured his heart's blood into this place, and it was also the land that his ancestors had cultivated and protected for generations. Even though this place had undergone great changes in the past, had dimmed and declined, as long as the descendants of the Lin family were still around, there would come a time when it would regain its former glory. Lin Sun took a deep breath and suppressed the boiling, killing intent in his heart. At the top of the mountain, the heart-cleansing hall was brightly lit. Many figures were waiting outside the hall. They seemed to be waiting for something. The atmosphere was very heavy. Everyone's faces were filled with worry. Even when Lin Sun and Lin Xiefeng approached, no one noticed them. Lin Xiefeng was stunned. He also felt a little strange. He stepped forward and pulled a person, asking, "What's going on?" It was a servant. After recognizing Lin Xiefeng's identity, he hurriedly said, "Master Xiefeng, a messenger of Zhuo family came just now and said that he wanted to discuss a deal with Lin family. Now he is in Heart-Cleansing Hall." The messenger of the Zhuo family. Lin Xiefeng's face darkened. It was definitely not a good thing to talk about business. He looked at Lin Sun, but Lin Sun waved his hand, "Don't worry." At the same time, Lin Sun's huge spiritual awareness spread out and instantly covered the whole Heart-Cleansing Hall. As long as Lin family agrees to give up Heart-Cleansing Peak from tomorrow and send all the forces of Lin family to the border battlefield to kill the enemy to atone for your sins, Zhuo family and Qin family will plead with the third prince, so that Lin family will not be accused of treason. Zhuo Wenkuan stood in the hall of Heart-Cleansing Peak with his hands on his back. He was dressed neatly in a luxurious robe. His face was long and thin, and he had a pair of triangular eyes. He was an elder of the Zhuo family. He had come to deliver an ultimatum to the Lin family. Even though he was alone, he was not afraid at all. Presently, the Lin clan was besieged on all sides, isolated, and without help. All it lacked was the label of treason, before it would step into complete annihilation. The hall was brightly lit, yet the atmosphere was extremely silent, and only Zhuo Wenkuan's voice that was filled with indifference and arrogance reverberated. Many high-ranking members of the Lin family were sitting there. Among them were important figures from the 4 branches of the Lin family, such as Lin Huayuan, Lin Beiguang, Lin Sisi, Lin Yunheng, and Lin Feifeng. Lin Zhong, Vulture, Yang Ku, Zhu Laosan, and the others. Only, no matter who it was, all of their expressions were incomparably gloomy. Many people were even more furious, their eyes bloodshot and about to explode. "Are you trying to force our Lin family into a corner?" Vulture sighed softly. Giving Heart-Cleansing Peak to Lin Sun was tantamount to completely destroying the foundation of Lin family. Sending all their forces to the borderlands to kill the enemy to atone for their crimes was no different from exiled prisoners. It was very likely that they would never return. Either of these two conditions was unbearable for the Lin family. Of course, everyone present understood that. Therefore, when they learned of Zhuo Wenkuan's intention, their faces were extremely gloomy. There was an unspeakable sorrow in their hearts. More than 10 years ago, the Lin family rose from decline and became famous all over the world, ranking among the top middle-level aristocratic families. If there was no accident, sooner or later, they would be able to re-enter the top aristocratic families and regain their former glory. However, an accident happened in this upheaval that lasted for more than 10 years. Now, more than half of the forces under the Lin family's command had been lost on the battlefield, which greatly weakened the Lin family. If they were accused of treason, they would not be far from being annihilated. It's much better than being accused of treason, isn't it? Zhuo Wenkuan smiled slightly. He enjoyed this feeling very much, as if he could control the life and death of a clan. Bullshit. When did the Lin family commit treason? The hot-tempered Lin Baiguang cursed loudly, his face ashen. Aren't you afraid of being despised by the world for doing this? Zhuo Wenkuan's expression turned cold. The destruction of the Lin family cannot affect the overall situation of the empire. Don't think too highly of yourself. Only those with true power are in the hands of those with true power. For example, the Zhuo family, the Qin family, and the royal family. Vulture frowned. The crime of treason must be judged by the current emperor. I'm afraid you don't have the right, do you? Zhuo Wenkuan sneered. Childish. The third prince is in charge of the empire now. One word from him, and the Lin family will be accused of treason. After a pause, he continued, Don't forget, we have evidence. The Lin family's demonic guard has already committed treason. You're slandering us. In an instant, everyone in the hall was enraged. This was a complete framing. One can always find a way to frame someone. Vulture sighed softly. He had completely understood that the Zhuo family had not sent an emissary here to make a deal, but to force the Lin family into a corner. Zhuo Wenkuan snorted coldly. Stubborn. I'll ask you one last time. Are you really not going to accept the goodwill of the Zhuo family and the Qin family? His words caused the atmosphere in the hall to become deathly silent. Vulture sat there like a statue, not saying a word. The other Lin family members were all gloomy, angry, and sorrowful. They all felt an indescribable sense of despair and helplessness. Was the great Lin family going to end just like that? At this moment, the closed door of the hall was pushed open. Everyone was surprised and frowned. Today's matter concerned the survival of the Lin family. It was extremely important. Without a report, no one would dare to come near. But now, the doors to the hall had been pushed open by someone without even reporting to them. Xiefeng, why are you back so soon? Seeing Lin Xiefeng appear outside the hall, Lin Huayuan could not help but frown. He had a bad feeling. Could it be that he had gone to the palace to seek help from the third prince, Zhao Jingwen, had been rejected again? Others' faces were also gloomy. Zhuo Wenkuan glanced at Lin Xiefeng and then withdrew his eyes. He said expressionlessly, My time is precious. Please make a decision as soon as possible. It's better for me to make the decision. An indifferent voice sounded outside the hall. But at this moment, all the people in the hall widened their eyes and looked out of the hall as if they were struck by lightning. Only then did they see a handsome figure walking out from behind Lin Xiefeng. He was dressed in a moon-white robe, with a handsome face and dark and deep eyes, with an air of transcendence. They were too familiar with this figure. Suddenly, young Cook covered her mouth with her slender hands. Her almond-shaped eyes were wide open. She trembled with excitement and couldn't say a word. Who are you? Is this a place where a young man like you can speak freely? When did the Lin family lose their etiquette? Zhuo Wenkuan frowned. He turned his head again and saw Lin Sun. But he didn't know him. Seeing that he was so young, he thought he was a young man of the Lin family, so he scolded him rudely. The hall was dead silent. It seemed that no one heard Zhuo words. With a clatter, the teacup in Lin Zhong's hand slipped and fell to the ground. The hot tea splashed all over the ground. But Lin Zhong didn't seem to notice it at all. Looking at the figure appearing in front of the hall, his whole body trembled violently. The others were more or less the same as Lin Zhong. They were flabbergasted and seemed to not dare believe their eyes. Zhuo realized that something was wrong. He said gloomily, "It seems that you didn't listen to my words. In this case, you're on your own. Goodbye." After saying that, he was about to leave. At this moment, he suddenly found that all the people in the hall stood up and said excitedly, "Patriarch! Is it really you, Patriarch? Is it true?" Their voices were noisy, mixed with excitement, surprise, trance and other emotions. It was as unbelievable as a dream. Patriarch? Zhuo was stunned at first, and then a white light flashed through his mind like lightning. Was that young man Lin Sun? He blurted out. Then, Zhuo trembled all over. He finally understood why these big shots of Lin family seemed to be so out of control when they saw this young man. That was because this young man had once been like a legend. He had supported the entire Lin family with his own strength. With the strength of one person, he suppressed all the big forces in the Forbidden City and forced them to endure and retreat. Because this young man was Lin Sun. He was the patriarch of Lin family in Heart-Cleansing Peak, a young spiritual tattooist, and a peerless talent of the young generation with the title of unparalleled child in the whole capital. More than 10 years ago, everyone in the Forbidden City, and even the whole empire, didn't know Lin Sun's name. How could it be possible? Zhuo was stunned and his mind was in chaos. Didn't they say that it was impossible for Lin Sun to return from the ancient Desolation Realm? After all these years, he didn't show up. Why did he suddenly appear tonight? Sorry, I'm a little late. Lin Sun walked into the hall and glanced at Lin Zhong, Young Ku, Vulture, Zhu Laosan, Lin Huiyuan and others. Good young master, it's good that you're back." Lin Zhong was so excited that he burst into tears. His lips trembled and he spoke incoherently. In recent years, Lin family had fallen into the whirlpool of storms. Lin Zhong didn't know how many times he worried that Heart-Cleansing Peak would be destroyed by him. If so, he couldn't rest in peace even if he died. Seeing Lin Zhong's expression, Lin Sun also felt a kind of guilt in his heart. He hated the Zhuo and Qin families to the extreme and almost couldn't control his killing intent. How can you come back?" Zhuo took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. He tried to calm himself down and thought that a young man who had just gone to the ancient Desolation Realm for more than 10 years could do anything even if he came back. Now the general trend had been formed. He alone was doomed to be unable to save the situation. P.S. Let's update 3 times in a row first. Chapter 1389. More than 10 years could change a lot of things. But Zhuo didn't believe that Lin Sun, who was only in Tao Insight Realm when he left the mortal world, could become so powerful in just 10 years. What's more, how strong he was. After all, he was just a man. In the past, the Zhuo and Qin families could only bear with the protection of Zhao Tai, the president of Green Deer School, and Fortune Godshire, the leader of Keystone Business. But now everything was different. Even if Lin Sun came back, he couldn't change the general trend of Lin family's destruction. Thinking of this, Zhuo calmed down and even looked at Lin Sun with a touch of pity. Coming back at this time was simply throwing oneself into a trap. How stupid! Young master, this is… Lin Zhong suddenly calmed down and was about to explain something, but was interrupted by Lin Sun. Grandad Zhong, I have a general idea of the matter. Let me deal with these things. The members of Lin family who were ecstatic, excited, and in a trance gradually calmed down at this time, and then there was a kind of worry in their hearts. It was indeed a great joy for Lin Sun to come back, but the current situation of Lin family was full of danger and on the verge of destruction. In such a situation, Could Lin soon change the situation? Hee, with just you? Zhuo looked more and more pity. This young man didn't recognize the current situation of Lin family at all. Lin soon turned his head and glanced at Zhuo. This was also the first time he looked at Zhuo since he entered the hall. Then, Zhuo knelt down with a bang and kowtowed to the ground. All the people in the hall were shocked. From beginning to end, they didn't notice anything at all, but Zhuo knelt down like this, which seemed very abrupt. It should be known that this guy, as the messenger of Zhuo family, was also a great practitioner of reincarnation developing realm. In this hall just now, he was high and mighty, arrogant, and didn't put anyone in his eyes at all. But now Lin Sun just glanced at him and directly knelt down. Then Zhuo twitched all over and screamed, but he couldn't make any sound. He wanted to raise his head and get up, but he didn't even have the strength to struggle. His mind were drowned by a great terror, and his mind became blank. With a cold glance, life and death were no longer up to you. Seeing this strange scene, all the people in the hall were shocked, and the way they looked at Lin Sun had changed. More than 10 years had passed. How powerful was the patriarch now? Master, this person is the messenger of the Zhuo family. Should we just? Lin Huiyuan hesitated for a moment and could not help but remind him. The others also secretly nodded. If they did this, they would probably completely shed all pretense of cordiality with the Zhuo and Qin families. There would be no room for negotiation. Does the Zhuo family have a saint? Asked Lin Sun. Everyone shook their heads. Saint? That was a legendary existence. Not to mention the Zhuo family, there was not a single sage among the 7 aristocratic families of the empire. That's not right. Why did the patriarch ask about the saint? Suddenly, everyone's hearts trembled. They seemed to have understood something, and they all revealed shocked expressions. But when they were about to ask, Lin Sun had already walked up to the 2nd floor of the hall with Vulture and Lin Zhong and disappeared from everyone's sight. After a while, Lin Huiyuan swallowed with difficulty and said, "What did the patriarch mean by that? Could it be that the power below the sage can no longer threaten the patriarch?" His words silenced the hall. In their hearts, they couldn't help but let their imagination run wild. Regardless of the king's boundary or the power of the Zhuo and Qin families, they only asked if there was a sage. The meaning revealed in these words was too shocking. These years, the patriarch must have had many extraordinary encounters. He has become completely different from before, Lin Baiguang sighed. Everyone else felt the same way. Lin Sun was still Lin Sun, but the feeling he gave them was completely different. Under his seemingly calm aura, he gave people a feeling that he was untouchable, as if he was looking down on all living things, making people feel that they could only look up to him. This feeling wasn't strong, and could only be realized by tasting it carefully. No matter what, the patriarch is back. Even if the Lin family will face a storm tomorrow, we have a backbone and no longer have to worry, Lin Xiefeng said resolutely. Everyone agreed with him. Now that Lin Sun was back, the Lin family had a backbone. On the ground, Zhuo knelt there, as if he had lost his soul. On the 2nd floor of Heart Cleansing Hall. Grandad Zhong, Mr. Vulture, you have worked hard these years. Lin Sun took a deep breath and saluted seriously. Lin Zhong burst into tears and quickly helped Lin Sun up, saying, "Young master, as long as you are alive, there will be hope for our Lin family." Vulture was also excited in his heart. When he saw Lin Sun for the first time, he was just a thin boy with a slight immaturity. Now, he had become completely different. That calm demeanor that was as steady as a mountain made Vulture's heart filled with admiration. Grandad Zhong, I have a general understanding of what happened these years. I only have one doubt at present. What role did the 3rd prince Zhao Jingguan play? Lin Sun asked after sitting down one by one. Without the support of the 3rd prince, the Zhuo and Qin families wouldn't dare to act so recklessly. Only the 3rd prince, who now controls the power of the empire, has the ability to charge our Lin family with treason. Lin Zhong said in a low voice, his brows tightly furrowed. Moreover, it is precisely because we can see that the third prince does not like our Lin family that some of the factions that were originally on good terms with our Lin family have drawn a clear line with us. Vulture hit the nail on the head. Even if the third prince is not the culprit, he has played the role of an accomplice. Lin Sun nodded, looking neither sad nor happy. I see. Then he turned to look at Vulture and said, Mr. Vulture, I need a list. In addition to the Zhua and Qin families, we can't let go of all the forces who have hurt our Lin family these years. Lin Zhong was shocked in his heart. Was the young master going to carry out a big settlement? Vulture smiled, took out a jade slip from his arms and handed it to Lin Sun. I have already prepared it for you. Lin Sun scanned it with his spiritual awareness and kept it in mind. Young master, you just came back today. There are some things you don't know yet. Lin Zhong was a little worried that Lin Sun would do something reckless because of his anger. However, before he could persuade Lin Sun said softly, Grandad Zhong, I might be afraid of the so-called top aristocratic families in the past, but now they are no different from ants to me. Although Lin Sun's tone was ordinary, Lin Zhong and Vulture heard from his words a kind of spirit of looking down on all living beings. The 7 top aristocratic families, regarded as the most powerful by all the practitioners of Xiao Empire, were no different from ants in Lin Sun's words. This naturally made people's hearts tremble. But as long as they knew Lin Sun's experience in the ancient Desolation realm, no one dared to say that Lin Sun was boasting shamelessly. Lin Sun had even killed sages and countless overlords in the longevity tribulation realm. No matter how strong the top aristocratic families were, could they be stronger than those ancient forces in the ancient Desolation realm? Could they be stronger than sages? Young master, what have you experienced in the ancient Desolation realm these years? Lin Zhong couldn't calm down and couldn't help asking. Vulture also pricked up his ears. He found that even he couldn't see through the young man in front of him. Even when sitting with Lin Sun, he always felt a sense of restraint and fear from the bottom of his heart. This was not because his state of mind was not stable enough, but because of the absolute suppression from their cultivation realms. Lin Sun casually mentioned his experiences in these years, but didn't say much. Even so, it still left Lin Zhong and Vulture dumbfounded and completely astounded. The first person in the absolute domain, the first on the Tianjiao Golden List, killed 9 sages outside Snow Mulberry City. When Lin Zhong and the others heard this, it was like they were listening to a legendary story, and it was so inconceivable and so unreal. What shocked them most was that they couldn't understand some of it. Because what Lin Sun experienced and the enemies he killed were too powerful and horrible. They had never seen it before, so how could they understand? But there were still some things that Lin Zhong and Vulture knew, such as killing sages. In just 16 years, young master has become famous in the ancient Desolation realm. Compared with those ancient orthodoxies in the ancient Desolation realm, the Zhua and Qin families are really nothing. They are just like ants. Lin Zhong sighed with emotion, and his heart was surging. One man killed a way to rise in the great world, and killed those ancient orthodoxies. Alas, I can't understand more and more. Vulture calmed down and shook his head with a wry smile. By the way, do you know where the Emperor, the Empress and the bloodthirsty Lord have been these years? Lin Sun asked. Lin Zhong shook his head. I don't know. It's rumored that after the upheaval, some old monsters in the Empire left the Empire. As for where they went, there are different opinions. Lin Sun nodded and said coldly, It's good that they are not there. When I kill people, no one can hinder me. Vulture narrowed his eyes. How are you going to deal with the Zhua and Qin families? Don't they want to seize Heart-Cleansing Peak and send all the forces of Lin family to the border battlefield? I'll also give them a choice. Lin Sun smiled coldly. Although Lin Sun didn't know much about what happened to Lin family over the years, he could imagine that Lin family was in a bad situation. It was not easy for them to hold on until now. Vulture continued to ask, "What about the third prince? No matter who he is, he should pay the price he deserves for doing something wrong." Lin Sun was resolute. "Grandad Zhong, Mr. Vulture, take care of Lin family. I'll go to experience the power of Zhuo family first." After that, he stood up. On the first floor of Heart Cleansing Hall, Zhuo Wenkuan, who was kowtowing and kneeling on the ground, was picked up by Lin Sun like a chicken and said, "Don't you want to know how I will deal with this matter? I'll take you to see it in person." Whoosh! The next moment, Lin Sun directly turned into a rainbow and rushed out of Heart Cleansing Hall. He flew to the sky under the night sky of the Forbidden City. All the people of Lin family looked at each other with excitement. P.S. This is the second watch. Chapter 1390. The night in the Forbidden City was picturesque. Yujing Peak. This was the place where Zhuo clan, one of the 7 top aristocratic families of the empire, occupied. In the night, this peak was as white as snow and brightly lit. In the conference hall on the top of the mountain, many high-level figures of Zhuo clan gathered together, drinking and talking happily. After tonight, there is only one result for Lin family. Either they will be regarded as treason and be exterminated, or they will accept our conditions, give up Heart Cleansing Peak, get out of the Forbidden City, and be exiled to the border battlefield of the Empire to atone for their crimes. Zhuo Bugu, the first elder of Zhuo clan, raised his glass and laughed complacently. Hey, back in those days, a young boy from the Lin family stirred up trouble in the Forbidden City and embarrassed our top aristocratic families. We could only swallow our anger. But now, I'm afraid that boy has already died in the ancient Desolation realm. This is the result of going against us. For a time, there was a burst of happy voices in the hall. Everyone had a complacent smile of revenge. If Lin family agrees to give up Heart Cleansing Peak and send their forces to the border battlefield to kill the enemy, I'm afraid there will be many variables. After all, if we don't remove the roots, there will be endless troubles in the future. Someone muttered. Haha, don't worry. Zhuo Weihai, the patriarch of Zhuo clan, smiled faintly. There is also an army of Zhuo clan on the border battlefield. As long as they serve as cannon fodder on the battlefield, it will be enough to obliterate all the forces of Lin family. Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter in the hall. At the same time, at the foot of Yujing Peak, Lin Sun's figure floated over. With a glance, he found that Yujing Peak was covered with a layer of royal forbidden formation. You don't want to kill my Zhuo clan alone, do you? Zhuo Wenkuan widened his eyes. Why not? Lin Sun said calmly. You're courting death. You're overconfident. Zhuo Wenkuan was so angry that he laughed. He felt it absurd. When did someone dare to do this? Watch carefully. After tonight, the Zhuo family will be removed from the Forbidden City. Lin Sun said lightly and went straight up the mountain. Zhuo Wenkuan was suppressed to kneel on the ground, unable to move. He could only watch helplessly and couldn't even speak. Courting death. Zhuo Wenkuan sneered. His eyes were filled with endless hatred. He did not believe that a young man who had left for more than 10 years could shake the Zhuo family. But in the next moment, he was stunned. The Yujing Peak was covered by the forbidden formation of Qingwei, which was powerful enough to kill old monsters in the Qing realm. But Lin Sun didn't encounter any obstacles, as if he had entered an unstoppable place. This, Zhuo Wenkuan's heart trembled. A bad premonition arose in his heart, and his entire body shivered. Unfortunately, he could no longer see what was happening in the Jade Well Peak. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you trespass on the Zhuo family's land? As soon as he climbed the mountain, someone noticed Lin Sun's figure. It was a group of guards who rushed over like wolves and tigers. Pu. But before they could even get close, their bodies exploded one by one, and blood rained down like a waterfall. But Lin Sun continued to climb the mountain without looking at them. He wore a moon-white robe, and his expression was tranquil like an ancient well. He seemed like a tourist climbing a mountain as he strolled leisurely with his hands behind his back. Only a pair of black eyes could faintly see the surging killing intent. Under the night lights, one could see rows upon rows of magnificent and ancient buildings on the huge jade well peak. Who dares to come to our Zwa family to court death? Hurry up, there's a foreign enemy. Bursts of roars sounded, and the entire Zwa family's guards stationed in the Yujing Peak began to move like a tide. All of them were full of murderous intent and extremely angry. Lin Sun didn't hide his figure because there was no need at all. However, when those strong men of the Zwa family saw that it was just a young man who rushed into the Yujing Peak, they couldn't help but be stunned and almost couldn't believe it. In the Forbidden City, there was someone who dared to come to the Zwa family and make trouble? Stop! Someone shouted. Lin Sun didn't feel it at all. But the body of the man who shouted burst at this moment like a piece of paper, and blood spilled all over the ground. This strange and bloody scene immediately changed the faces of those strong men of the Zwa family. Hurry up, stop him. Let's go together. In the roar, these strong men of the Zwa family rushed from all directions like a tide. They all took out their treasures and activated their Taoist magic. However, Lin Sun didn't stop from beginning to end. He kept moving forward at a seemingly slow pace, but in fact, he was extremely fast. In this process, all the attacks that rushed over were disintegrated. All the Taoist magic that came over was annihilated. All the people who attacked were obliterated. But Lin Sun walked in the bloody killing as if he was walking on the flat ground. Puff, puff, puff. Groups of strong men of the Zwa family came aggressively, but they fell to the ground like leaks one after another. Their bodies exploded like clusters of bloody fireworks, leaving a scarlet, poignant, and beautiful path of blood behind Lin Sun. From beginning to end, Lin Sun didn't do anything at all. With his current strength, as long as he showed a little killing intent, he could easily crush any practitioner of the 5 realms. Even a king realm cultivator would be greatly deterred and his fighting spirit would be affected. Moreover, these weak men were not worthy of Lin Sun's attention at all. Gradually, those strong men of the Zwa family realized that something was wrong. They all screamed in horror and fled in panic, asking for help. Even though that young man was alone, he was like a terrifying demonic god. As he walked, he harvested souls, unstoppable. It was just too terrifying. If one looked down from the sky, they would find that behind Lin Sun, there was a blood road paved straight to the top of the mountain. It was like a bloody line drawn by the brush of the Grim Reaper. It was shocking. Bang! The closed door of the conference hall at the top of the mountain was knocked open. A strong man of the Zwa family screamed in panic, "Patriarch, there are enemies coming!" In the hall, Zwa Weihai, Zwa Bugu and other senior leaders of the Zwa family all frowned, and the lively atmosphere froze. Puff! At the same time, the strong man of the Zwa family who reported the news suddenly died, and his body exploded. Everyone was drinking and chatting, and the atmosphere was warm and happy. But such a sudden scene made some maids scream on the spot. The faces of the big shots of the Zwa family changed slightly, and the atmosphere suddenly became extremely frightening. They looked up and saw a young man in moon-white clothes coming alone outside the hall. His eyes were as deep as the abyss. "Who are you?" someone asked in a low voice. An unfamiliar young man had suddenly appeared here. This in itself was shocking. With the defensive power of the Zwa family, even the old monster of the King realm couldn't step in without permission. "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that after tonight, the Zwa family will be removed from the Forbidden City," Lin Sun said calmly. The light words made the faces of Zwa Weihai and others gloomy. When had the Zwa family been threatened like this? In such a big empire, who dared to threaten them like this? Arrogant! Suddenly, someone laughed angrily. It was a big shot of the Zwa family. Lin Sun's black eyes looked over, and a murderous look burst out, like a pair of swords, killing the spirit of the man across the air. With a thud, the big shot of the Zwa family widened his eyes and fell to the ground. His breath was cut off. This horrible scene made the atmosphere in the hall extremely silent. All the big shots of the Zwa family changed their faces and felt cold all over. They were frightened. They didn't expect that such a young man who came suddenly could be so terrible. He is Lin Sun. Suddenly, someone screamed. Lin Sun. Everyone was stunned. Looking at Lin Sun's appearance, a guess appeared in their minds. Lin Sun, the head of the Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak? Suddenly, in the huge hall, all the senior members of the Zwa family were shocked and looked at Lin Sun incredulously. How could they forget the famous master of Heart-Cleansing Peak more than 10 years ago in the capital city? How could you come back? Zwa Weihai's face changed wildly. Others also looked like they had seen a ghost. Of course, what made their hearts tremble was that Lin Sun not only came back, but also came to their Zwa family alone tonight. They couldn't believe it. As far as they knew, Lin Sun was just a strong practitioner of Tao Insight Realm when he left the mortal world. It had only been a little more than 10 years. How could he have become so powerful? For a time, the candlelight in the hall flickered, and the atmosphere was dead silent. Lin Sun walked into the hall, pulled out a chair and sat on it leisurely. His eyes swept across the crowd and he smiled. If I didn't come back, how could I know the good deeds of the Zwa family and the Qin family? He was calm as if he was at home, but the senior members of the Zwa family didn't dare to act without authorization. They couldn't see through him. What do you want to do here? Zwa Weihai took a deep breath and calmed himself down. This was the territory of the Zwa family, but now a young man broke in and acted like a tyrant, which made him feel extremely embarrassed. But the power shown by Lin Sun was so strange that he didn't dare to act recklessly for a while. When I was born, the Lin family suffered a bloody incident. From then on, the Lin family became food in the eyes of some people. We were torn apart and fell into decline. The Zwa family was one of those people. Lin Sun's eyes were cold. Later, I managed to get a foothold in the Forbidden City, but I was repeatedly suppressed and targeted, including the Zwa family. In recent years, my Lin family has been repeatedly framed and is in danger of being destroyed. Your Zwa family is one of them. Zwa Weihai snorted. This is called the law of the jungle. Even if the Zwa family doesn't do anything, others will. Lin Sun nodded. You're right. The weak are prey to the strong. So I'm here today to settle this account with the Zwa family. Just you? Zwa Weihai's face was livid. Just me. It was just 3 words, calm, simple, powerful, and resonating. Then, Lin Sun stood up. At this moment, a terrifying and boundless power spread out from Lin Sun, drowning the whole hall like an overwhelming ocean. Every big shot of the Zwa family seemed to be strangled, and their faces turned pale as if they had fallen into an ice cave. P.S. The 4th chapter will be updated at about 8 p.m., and the 5th chapter will be updated at a later time. Anyway, there will be 5 chapters today. If you enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe and monthly tickets. The goldfish continued to write. Chapter 1391. Plop, plop. There was a series of dull sounds. The highest cultivation of the Zwa family present was at the half-step king realm, and the weakest was at the reincarnation developing realm. But at this moment, they all knelt down. The dull sounds were made by their knees hitting the ground. Boom. At the same time, in this splendid hall, the tables, cups, plates, and decorations all exploded and turned into powder. As for the maids and squires, they had already fainted and were bleeding from their 7 orifices. And this was the power exuded by Lin Sun, the power of a 7th retribution immortal king who had killed in a sea of blood and corpses. At this moment, Lin Sun stood alone in the hall, like a god overlooking all living beings. At this moment, Zwa Weihai, Zwa Bugu, and the others all turned pale. Their minds were shocked and their bodies were drowned in fear. They finally understood why Lin Sun dared to climb the mountain alone. But they still couldn't believe it. Back then, this man was only a reincarnation developing realm practitioner. How could he become so terrifying in just a dozen years? Just what level had his strength reached? King realm? Or even higher? They couldn't understand it. They all trembled as if they were grieving. Previously, this place was dazzling with splendor and laughter. As the leaders of the Zhou family, they were discussing how to push the Lin family into a dead end. They were full of ambition. But now, just because of Lin Sun's appearance, everything changed. Is it enough for me? Lin Sun's eyes were clear and emotionless. His words made the atmosphere in the hall even more oppressive, making people feel suffocated. Just his aura alone was enough to make them kneel on the ground without any strength to struggle. If they really fought, who could fight against him? How dare you? I'd like to see who dares to make trouble in the Zhou family in this empire. Suddenly, a roar sounded. Along with the voice, a group of figures rushed into the hall. There were 7 or 8 of them, including white-haired old men, senile old women, and handsome young men. All of them exuded the power of a king realm practitioner. This was especially so for the man in the lead, whose aura was the strongest. His hair was black like ink, and his figure was tall and straight like a mighty mountain. When his eyes opened and closed, divine light flowed. This was an old fellow at the king realm in the Zhou clan that was called the Divine Pillar of Stability. His name was Zhuotsen, and he'd stepped onto the path to immortality many years ago. At the same time, Zhuotsen was also the pillar of the Zhou family. It was precisely because of his leadership that the Zhou family had always been able to ascend to the ranks of the first-rank clans and remain unshakable until now. The 7 people behind Zhuotsen weren't ordinary people either. They usually cultivated in seclusion, and unless they encountered a matter of life and death, they wouldn't show themselves at all. But at this moment, all of them had come with Zhuotsen. Evidently, the commotion in the conference hall had caught their attention. Patriarch! On the ground, Zhou Weihai and the others cried out in grief and indignation. It was as if they had found their savior, and many of them were crying tears of joy. How dare you! As soon as Zhuotsen arrived, his face darkened and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Lin Sun standing in the center of the hall. Patriarch, this boy is, Zhou Weihai hurriedly told Lin Sun's identity one by one. When they knew Lin Sun's identity, Zhuotsen and the others couldn't help but be surprised. They looked at Lin Sun in a different way, as if they couldn't believe it. A young man who was only in the Tao Insight realm more than 10 years ago had risen to become a giant at the King realm now? It was incredible. Is everyone here? Well, it's time to talk about business. At the same time, Lin Sun spoke. He didn't rush to take action before because he was waiting for this moment. If he didn't destroy the real power of the Zhou clan, it would be impossible to eliminate the Zhou clan from the Forbidden City. Lin Sun, do you know what you're doing? Zhuotsen's face was gloomy, and he was a little surprised and doubtful. No matter how hard he perceived, he couldn't see through Lin Sun's cultivation. There were only 2 possibilities. First, Lin Sun's cultivation was far above his. Second, Lin Sun had cultivated a secret method that could conceal his aura and realm. But no matter which one it was, Zhuotsen felt uneasy. If it weren't for this, Zhuotsen would have taken action as soon as he saw the scene in the hall. I'm taking revenge. What's wrong with that? Lin Sun smiled slightly. In the face of a group of King Realm, Lin Sun was still so calm, which made Zhuotsen feel more and more uneasy. Revenge? I think you're tired of living. Suddenly, a King Realm strongman couldn't help shouting coldly. It was an old woman with a green serpent cane in her hand. Seeing that Lin Sun, an outsider, dared to be so arrogant in her own territory, she was furious and full of killing intent. Noisy. Lin Sun gently spat out 2 words, which turned into a kind of profound meaning of Pu Lao's roar and spread out. It was just like the law of words. Bang! The old woman trembled all over and stepped back uncontrollably. Her eyes widened and she opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. But in the end, her body fell to the ground with a bang, and her soul had been shattered and erased in her body. The soul was like a lamp, which could live forever as long as it was not extinguished. If it was extinguished, only death awaited. In the hall, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Zwutzin and other old monsters' faces changed greatly, and their hearts trembled uncontrollably. Just 2 words killed a king who had stepped into the first tribulation of longevity? It was horrible. Zwawei, Zwabugu and other big shots kneeling on the ground were dumbfounded, and the original joy in their hearts was replaced by an indescribable chill. "Why don't you speak?" Lin Sun said indifferently. "As one of the 7 top aristocratic families, there isn't even one brave person in the Zwa family?" His voice was full of indescribable coldness and sarcasm. Zwutzin's face was gloomy. Next to him, a handsome young man took a deep breath and said, "Lin Sun, now the Empire is suffering from internal and external troubles. There are still many places that need our help. I hope you can stop and give face to our Zwa family. What do you think?" "Your Zwa family? Sorry, it's worthless in my eyes," Lin Sun said and waved his sleeve. Boom! The handsome young man didn't even have time to react before his body turned into ashes and scattered all over the ground. Lin Sun killed a king with a wave of his sleeve. This horrible scene shocked everyone present in an instant. Even with Zwutzin's state of mind, he couldn't help but change his expression. He cried out involuntarily, What is your cultivation?" He couldn't see through it. The power displayed by Lin Sun was so horrible that it was completely beyond his imagination. How could they fight? Perhaps the Zwa family would be annihilated today. Thinking of this, Zwutzin's heart sank to the bottom. How could he expect that a young man who had left for more than 10 years would become so terrible when he returned? "Our Zwa family admits defeat." Without hesitation, Zwutzin made a decision. "Lin Sun, as long as you spare our Zwa family, we can agree to any compensation you propose." Unexpectedly, Lin Sun nodded and said, "Today, I won't kill all of you. I just want you to make a choice." "Go ahead." Zwutzin had a glimmer of hope in his heart. "Give up Yujing Peak and get out of the Forbidden City. Send all the forces of the Zwa family to the border of the Empire to atone for their sins and never step into the Forbidden City for the rest of their lives." "That's impossible!" Zwawei, who was kneeling on the ground, screamed heartbreakingly. "How could they agree to this?" "I'm not finished yet," Lin Sun said indifferently. "In addition to the above conditions, all the big shots of the Zwa family should offer their heads tonight." As soon as this was said, everyone in the hall was completely furious. How could they not understand that Lin Sun was clearly going to fight to the death? Is there no other way? Zwutzin took another deep breath and forcefully restrained the rage in her heart. "No." Lin Sun answered without hesitation. "Fine, then let this old man see if you have the confidence to say such words." Zwutzin's eyes burst with divine light and his momentum suddenly changed. 3 retribution of longevity? Lin Sun sneered. "I have killed many people like you. I can only say that you are very ignorant." Boom! Zwutzin didn't talk nonsense. He directly took action and used his most powerful means. A palm print that was like the sun was pressed down by Zwutzin, and the glow of the Tao rumbled from within it while it was dazzling and blazing to the extreme. Many people became nervous at this moment. It was the first time for them to see Zwutzin fight for so many years. They couldn't help but hope that he could defeat Lin Sun in one fell swoop. But in the face of such a blow, Lin Sun still waved his sleeves. Then, under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Zwutzin, the pillar of the Zwa family, turned into ashes in an instant. The way of his death was exactly the same as that of the handsome young man just now. For a moment everyone was stunned. Even the remaining King Realm strongmen of the Zwa family completely realized that the cultivation of the young man in front of them had already reached a height that was enough to make them despair. The atmosphere of despair spread in the hall like a tide. Zhuo Weiwei lost his soul and muttered, "It's impossible, it's impossible. Is there anything impossible in this world? It's time to end it." As Lin Sun's voice fell, a ray of bright sword chi swept out from his body. Whoosh! With a light sweep, heads rolled on the ground in the hall. Whether it was Zhuo Weiwei and the other King Realm old monsters of the Zhuo family, they were all beheaded by this sword. This was one of the Taishian sword chi that Lin Sun had cultivated. The power of the sword was incomparable. When Lin Sun walked out of the meeting hall on the top of Yujing Peak, which represented the highest power of the Zhuo family, a sea of fire suddenly rose and engulfed the whole hall. Lin Sun stood in front of the sea of fire with his hands behind his back, his clothes fluttering. Looking at the distant night, he looked as calm as when he first arrived at Yujing Peak. Because this was just the beginning of the reckoning. P.S. Before 10:30, Goldfish hasn't eaten yet. Fill your stomach first and then write. In addition, thank you to Chun Dong, Mr. Shen, Tao Tai and other friends for their gifts and monthly votes. Chapter 1392. The high-level forces of the Zhuo family were wiped out. It was not far from destruction. It could be imagined that when a superior family lost its deterrent power and its momentum plummeted, many hungry wolves were bound to jump out and take this opportunity to bite and trample on it. But for Lin Sun, this was far from enough. After tonight, he would crush all the power, strength and foundation of the Zhuo family step by step, so that there was no possibility of a comeback. Qin family, it's your turn. Lin Sun withdrew his eyes, floated up and turned into a divine rainbow. If the current emperor, bloodthirsty Lord Zhao Tailai and other big shots were still here, they would definitely stop Lin Sun's crazy action. But maybe it was God's will. No one could stop Lin Sun in the Forbidden City tonight. Greenshima Peak. It was the territory of Qin family, one of the 7 superior aristocratic families of the empire. After tonight, Lin family is doomed to perish. It can't be done without the help of everyone. Come on, let me propose a toast to you. In the magnificent and gorgeous hall, Qin Baoji, the patriarch of Qin family, stood up and raised his glass. Please. Seated in the main hall were some of the important figures that had been invited. They all raised their cups and drained them in one gulp. After the destruction of Lin family, our Qin family and the Zhuo family will each occupy 30% of its property. The remaining 20% will be given to the royal family. The remaining 20% will be divided by your forces. Qin Baoji said calmly, I believe this is also the result that you are happy to see. That's right. The guests present all nodded, beaming with joy. In these years, their forces had participated in the action against Lin family. Even some forces that had been on good terms with Lin family had drawn a clear line with Lin family. Now, Lin family was about to perish, and it was time to divide the spoils. How could the representatives of these forces not be happy? Brother Qin, who will take charge of Heart-Cleansing Peak if it is empty? Suddenly, someone asked. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became quiet. Everyone knew that the fattest piece of meat of Lin family was Heart-Cleansing Peak. As one of the 72 peaks in the Forbidden City, Heart-Cleansing Peak had also become a rare blessed place with rich spiritual energy, which was coveted by any great force with the drastic changes of the world in recent years. Moreover, if he could seize Heart-Cleansing Peak, it also meant a symbol of identity and power. Qin Baoji smiled and said, the third prince should be the one to make the decision. The Qin clan and the Zhuo clan can only follow his orders. Hearing this, everyone's mind became active. They knew that if they could deal with Zhao Jingwen, the third prince, they might be able to get Heart-Cleansing Peak. High up in the sky, Lin Sun stood silently under the night sky. His divine sense had already covered the entire Qin clan, and everything that happened in the hall was seen by him. A wisp of coldness couldn't help but suffuse the corners of his mouth. You're in such a hurry to hold a celebratory feast? This sentence exploded over green Afterglow Peak like a thunder. For a time, the echo rumbled and surged in all directions. In the bustling hall, all the clamorous sounds were suppressed, and the exquisite wine and banquet on the table were blasted into pieces amidst a wave of bangs. Who? In the hall, everyone's face changed and they stood up. Qin Baoji's face darkened and he also stood up. At this time, someone dared to disturb them. It was clear that they didn't give face to Qin clan. After that, in their field of vision, they saw a tall and handsome figure standing extremely far away in the sky. That figure had an indifferent expression, and he was looking down at them like a god. A person. Everyone couldn't help being stunned. In the Forbidden City, there was someone who dared to provoke Qin clan with such a high attitude? Was he tired of living? It's him, Lin Sun. Someone screamed and recognized Lin Sun. For a time, the whole audience was restless and in an uproar as if they had seen a ghost. No one expected that the young man who was thought to be impossible to return from the ancient desolation realm would appear here tonight. Lin Sun. Qin Baoji also narrowed his eyes and then sneered. It's good that Lin clan has lost its power. Since this man is here, we can kill him to avoid future troubles. Suddenly, the eyes of everyone present flickered. In their cognition, Lin Sun was still the young man who covered the capital more than 10 years ago. Now, although they were caught off guard by his sudden appearance, they all agreed with Qin Baoji's statement after they calmed down. Indeed, Lin Sun was just one person. Even if he returned at this time, he was doomed to be helpless. But here was Qin clan. His appearance was no different from walking into a trap. There is a way to heaven, but you don't take it. Lin Sun, if you come here to plead for your Lin clan, I can only say that it's impossible. Qin Baoji said calmly and conceitedly. Lin Sun, Lin clan has lost its power. You'd better surrender. This is Qin clan. You can't make any waves alone. Other guests also spoke. Seeing this, Lin Sun couldn't help laughing. His laughter was like thunder, resounding through the night. How could these bastards be so ignorant? Did they really think that they were hot-blooded and came here to die? You think too much. Tonight, Qin clan will be extinct, and you Lin Sun stopped smiling. His dark eyes were cold, and he glanced at everyone in the hall one by one. I won't let go of anyone. After saying that, he pressed his fingers together. A strand of sword chi swept out, brilliant like a rainbow, tearing the night sky, dazzling. Chop! The sword chi fell like a river of stars across the sky, chopping fiercely on the protective formation of green afterglow peak with irresistible momentum. When Lin Sun spoke, everyone thought that Lin Sun was crazy. He wanted to destroy Qin clan alone. Wasn't he crazy? When Lin Sun made his move, many people laughed. This was Qin clan. Did he think he could shake this place with his strength? But when Lin Sun's sword chi fell, everyone could no longer laugh. They were all stunned like clay sculptures and were terrified. What kind of sword was this? It was blazing, vast, condensed, and full of power that was enough to oppress all living beings. The power contained in this sword was even beyond all their imagination. They were almost suffocated just by looking at it. Boom! The earth shook and the sky changed color. One sword cut through the protective formation of Qin clan. The sword chi, which was thousands of meters long, chiseled a deep crack on green afterglow peak. The sword chi was surging, blowing up rocks and plants. All the strongmen who got close to the place where the sword chi cut down were instantly turned into ashes. This was the power of Lin Sun's sword. It was also at this time that he used his real strength. Of course, if it weren't for fear of destroying the mountain, the power of this sword would be far more than this. Boom! The magnificent hall where Qin Baoji was also split by the sword chi and collapsed from the middle. For a time, there were endless exclamations and shouts. All the guests fled in panic. Everyone's face was full of fear and horror. Only now did they realize how ridiculously wrong their previous guesses were. How dare you? How dare someone come to our Qin clan to make trouble for so many years? Such a big movement immediately alarmed the old monsters of Qin clan who lived in seclusion on Green Afterglow Peak. They rose into the air and showed themselves. There were more than a dozen of them. However, when they saw that it was only Lin Sun who came to pick a fight, these old monsters of King Realm were obviously stunned and very surprised. Their expressions were exactly the same as those of Zhua Tsin and others. "Old ancestor, you must kill this guy." Qin Baoji gnashed his teeth and almost went crazy with hatred. Cut. At this time, Lin Sun was still calm and slashed again. There was only one word for this sword: fast. It was incredibly fast. As if it had broken the shackles and boundaries of space, it just flashed and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was impossible to capture its trace at all. But the next moment, all the people of Qin clan witnessed the power of this sword. Puff! A line of blood suddenly appeared on the throat of an old monster of King Realm, and then his whole head flew up and blood sprinkled in the night sky. Puff! Puff! Following that, the heads of the old monsters at the King Realm, who were standing in other directions, flew into the air as well. Looking from a distance, the bloody heads fell in the night sky, which looked particularly bloody and horrifying. With one sword, all the strong men of King Realm of Qin clan who appeared were beheaded. Such a shocking scene caused the furious Qin Baoji, who was venting his anger, to suddenly freeze, and he cried out involuntarily, "This!" And those guests who came to attend the banquet of Qin clan were already at a loss and scared out of their wits. One sword killed a group of kings. They had never seen such a horrible thing in their lives. Run! Without hesitation, these people chose to run away. At present, Qin clan was no longer as impregnable as they had imagined, but a dangerous place where they could lose their lives at any time. And all the clansmen and strong men of Qin clan who lived on Green Afterglow Peak had long been frightened and cried for their parents. Who would have thought that on a night like this, there would be such a great calamity descending upon them? Standing under the night sky, Lin Sun, like a cold god, cast a shadow over Green Afterglow Peak and brought death to Qin clan. Chop! Lin Sun looked as indifferent as before. His black eyes reflected the scenes that happened in Qin clan. Without hesitation, he made the third strike. This time, there were 108 beams of Taishian sword qi that swept out. They were as dense as a rainstorm that soared into the sky. They drew trails in the air and landed in the Qin clan. Bloody heads were easily chopped off. None of those guests survived. Even at death's door, they couldn't believe that such a thing would happen to them. Before that, they were still looking forward to how to divide up the fat meat of Lin clan. Puff! Qin Baoji's head was thrown up. His face was full of unwillingness, panic, despair, and confusion. Just tonight, he was still entertaining guests and arranging the division of Lin clan's property complacently. But now everything was in vain. That night, after Zhua clan, Qin clan also suffered a great disaster. Lin Sun's 3-sword strikes broke the mountain-protecting formation of Qin clan, killed a group of kings, and killed Qin Baoji and other big shot. Green Afterglow Peak was dyed with blood. P.S. The 5th chapter is here, with a total of about 15,000 words. Starting from 8 o'clock in the morning, he had been writing until now. Although he was exhausted, he felt at ease because he had completed the plan of breaking chapters today. Everyone enjoyed reading it. Don't forget to subscribe to support Goldfish. Next time, it will be released at 10 chapters. Goldfish will prepare well. If nothing goes wrong, it will be released around the middle of this month. Chapter 1393. The raging flames were burning. The smell of blood permeated the air. On Green Afterglow Peak, there was a scene as miserable as purgatory everywhere. Shrill screams, angry roars, and cries echoed one after another. This was a bloody picture. Qin family, one of the 7 top aristocratic families of the empire, also suffered tonight. Lin Sun stood in the void with no sadness or joy in his eyes. This grievance had been delayed for too long. This time, he wanted to put an end to it completely. whoosh. His figure flashed and disappeared in the vast night. It's impossible for Zhua and Qin family to turn over, but those accomplices. They can be spared from death, but they can't escape punishment. Tonight I'll give you an unforgettable lesson. Lin Sun walked in the void with cold black eyes. His spiritual awareness spread out like a tide and shrouded in all directions. The vast forbidden city was in his mind. Before coming, Vulture had given Lin Sun a list of the accomplices who had attacked Lin family over the years. At this time, this list appeared in Lin Sun's mind. Xue Tianren, the patriarch of Xue family of Forbidden City, a vassal of Qin family, killed 300 sons of Lin family with a military order on the border battlefield 3 years ago. Hou Taizhen, the patriarch of Hou family of Forbidden City, a vassal of Zhou family, killed 154 elites of Lin family in the battle with the demon army 8 years ago. Hong Xing, the patriarch of Hong family of Forbidden City, seized 9 mines of Lin family a year ago. Forbidden City, pieces of information about his enemies, as well as their origins and identities, flashed through Lin Sun's mind. These were all accomplices, but Lin Sun didn't care what they had done to Lin family. For him, since they dared to attack Lin family, they had to bear the price of revenge. Tonight he should kill people. Don't you see, lions and tigers gain fame by preying on them? Who will pity the poor elk? In the world, the strong always preyed on the weak. Even if it was reasonable, it was in vain. But Lin Sun had hatred in his heart. His clan had a grudge against them. Naturally, he should kill them and turn the world upside down. He could kill all the big forces and make them never dare to be enemies with Lin family forever. In short, he would rather let thousands of people gnash their teeth in hatred than let no one scold his name. There were 72 peaks in the Mountain of Clans, and each peak was occupied by a major force. Even the weakest had the strength of a mid-level clan. They represented the most powerful force in the Forbidden City of the Empire. Their influence spread throughout the Empire, so that countless people could only look up to them. The Xue family in the Forbidden City was a middle-level aristocratic family. Cloud Shadow Peak, Xue Clan Great Hall. Xue Tianren frowned and said worriedly, I just got the news that someone saw Lin in the Forbidden City. All the higher-ups of the Xue clan were gathered in the main hall. They were curious about exactly what had happened when they were summoned here so late at night. But when they heard the name Lin Sun, they all narrowed their eyes. Was the famous Lord of Heart-Cleansing Peak in the Forbidden City back? How is this possible? All the news shows that it's impossible for the boy to return in this life. And if he returns, how can there be no news in the Forbidden City? Some people didn't believe it and retorted with a sneer. Patriarch, who did you hear this from? Someone was puzzled. He Yanxiu, the spiritual tattoo master of the commune of spiritual tattooists. Xue Tianren said. Humph, the old man He Yanxiu is famous for bragging. Can you believe his words? Suddenly, many people disdained to speak. Xue Tianren's frown also relaxed. After thinking about it carefully, he seemed to have overreacted. Even if Lin Sun came back, so what? Even if the sky collapsed, the Zhua and Qin families would hold it up. At the thought of this, Xue Tianren couldn't help laughing. Puff! A stream of sword qi swept into the hall, instantly cut through Xue Tianren's throat, and cut off a big head. On the head, there was still a smile on his face, which looked extremely strange and creepy. The sword qi disappeared in an instant. In the hall, the atmosphere had become extremely silent. The higher-ups of the Xue family all widened their eyes, watching the head of Xue Tianren fall to the ground. They felt cold all over, and their hearts were filled with boundless fear. What on earth was going on? Hou family in the Forbidden City. Hou Taizhen, the patriarch of the Hou family, was waiting for the news. He had sent someone to the Qin family to discuss what benefits they could get after the destruction of the Lin family. But in the end, what he waited for was a stream of sword qi. A sword came from the sky and cut off his head, as easily as taking something out of his pocket. Hong family in the Forbidden City. In the following time, the heads of the patriarchs who controlled the power of the clans in the Forbidden City were chopped off one after another. A total of 19 forces in the Forbidden City were involved, 6 of which were medium and 13 of which were inferior. As long as they had dealt with the Lin family in these years, Lin soon didn't let go of any of them. And it only took a quarter of an hour to finish all this. There are 9 more forces left under the night sky. Lin soon walked in the void with his hands behind his back, his clothes fluttering in the wind. He was like a banished immortal, coming and going without a trace. Tonight, supporting oneself in the white blade, killing in the world of mortals. At the same time, the news of the disaster of the Zhua and Qin Liang families spread like a landslide and a tsunami in the night of the Forbidden City at an amazing speed. As the most prominent superior forces in the Forbidden City, the Zhua and Qin Liang families suffered great disasters one after another tonight. Such news was doomed to be hidden. For ordinary people in the Forbidden City, this night was no different from the past. However, to the various great powers that occupied the upper echelons, tonight was an extremely shocking night. Qi family. As one of the superior forces, Qi family almost got the news of what happened in the Zhua and Qin Liang families tonight at the first time. Bang! The teacup in Qi Lingxiao's hand fell, and the pieces were scattered. His face was livid. He sat there in a daze and didn't recover for a long time. As the head of Qi family, Qi Lingxiao had always been famous for his inexpressive face. But at this time, he seemed to lose his composure. Beside him, Qi Tsangmei's face was pale and her eyes were blank. When she got the news at the first time, she was so shocked that she almost suspected that she was dreaming. He single-handedly slaughtered the 2 high-class clans and beheaded the old monsters of the King realm one by one after a long time. Qi Lingxiao murmured, Is he really the boy surnamed Lin? There was a trace of uncontrollable trembling in his voice. Father, the news can't be wrong. Qi Tsangmei whispered. Unexpectedly, I haven't seen him for more than 10 years. An ant-like thing has risen to become a dragon and disturbed the Forbidden City tonight. Qi Lingxiao's emotions were rolling in his heart, and he couldn't suppress them at all. Even the Zhua and Qin Liang families were easily destroyed. If Lin soon killed their Qi family, who could stop him? Thinking of this, Qi Lingxiao shuddered and shouted, Hurry up, summon all the ancestors and elders in the family. Qi Tsangmei found that her father, who had always been calm in front of her, would be so panicked at this time. Before long, a group of old monsters of King Realm and high-level figures of Qi family gathered. When they learned what happened to the Zhua and Qin Liang families, these big figures were shocked and couldn't calm down. In the hall there was a panic and noise. Qi Tsangmei looked at all this and felt it was unreal. These big figures were also afraid, worried and panicked. But all the shock was not over. In the next time, the news came in one after another. What? The head of Shui family was beheaded? Even the head of Ho family was killed? Hong family, Chu family, Su family, Xing family, the heads of a total of 19 forces were all beheaded. At the beginning, all the people of Qi family were shocked and cold. In the end, they were all numb and dull. The atmosphere in the hall was no longer noisy, but became a strange dead silence. It was so oppressive that people couldn't breathe. Those old monsters of King Realm all had cold hands and feet and were scared out of their wits. Those big figures of Qi family, who used to be high and mighty, were also pale and lost their souls. The power struggle in the Forbidden City had its own rules. No matter what the fight was, there were few bloody conflicts that would be completely torn apart. Things like tonight, where they destroyed the mountain gates of 2 upper-class clans in one go and killed more than 10 leaders of various forces, had never happened before. It was crazy. One person killed all the way. Was he going to pierce the sky? What shall we do? After a long time, Qi Lingxiao asked in a hoarse voice, breaking the silence in the hall. Everyone looked at each other and was speechless. Everyone knew that in these years, Zhou and Qin family had cooperated to suppress Lin family and encroach on Lin family's power. Just recently, they even wanted to charge Lin family with treason. If there was no accident, it wouldn't take long for Lin family to be completely destroyed. But now everything was reversed. Lin soon broke the predicament alone, broke the gates of Zhou and Qin family, killed a group of lords, and killed the top figures of the two families. Blood flowed like a river. There was no doubt that from now on, even if Zhou and Qin family could survive, they were doomed to be removed from the Forbidden City. In these years, our Qi family has not participated in the action against Lin family, so we don't have to worry about it. Someone said in a deep voice. Don't forget that when Lin Sun came to the Forbidden City for the first time, our Qi family was ordered by Zhao Jingzhen to dispatch forces to kill him on the way. Although we failed in the end, we still became enemies with Lin Sun in the end. Some people were worried. If Lin Sun holds a grudge against us, I'm afraid that Qi family will also be targeted by him. His words made everyone feel cold in their hearts. Finally, Qi Lingxiao took a deep breath and made a decision. No matter what Lin Sun's attitude is, our Qi family must show enough sincerity to resolve this grievance. Tomorrow I'll go to Lin family in person. No matter what Lin Sun's request and compensation, I'll satisfy him. His voice was resolute and powerful. Seeing this, everyone sighed in their hearts and realized that this time, their Qi family might have to pay a lot of money, but there was no other way. This was the impermanence of the world. Who would have imagined that the young man from all those years ago would possess such monstrous and terrifying strength in just a dozen years? In this world, power was always respected. P.S. Thank you all for your tips and monthly tickets. I will update 2 times in a row tonight. Chapter 1394. However, Qi Lingxiao changed the topic and his eyes flickered. Before we decide to compensate Lin family, we have one more thing to do. What's the matter? Everyone was stunned. Let's see how Third Prince react. Qi Lingxiao said in a low voice. Over the years, without Third Prince's acquiescence, how could Zhou family and Qin family dare to suppress Lin family so unscrupulously? Don't forget, before Lin Sun went to ancient Waste region, he was promised by bloodthirsty King Zhao Tailai that he would protect Lin family with the imperial power of the empire. But obviously, Third Prince didn't do so. Everyone was shocked. Qi Lingxiao smiled coldly and said, Now, Zhou family and Qin family are in trouble. I'm afraid Third Prince can't sit still. I'm very curious about what Third Prince will do in the face of such things tonight. Suddenly, an old monster of the king's realm nodded and said, Yes, Lin Sun is very strong. He can easily kill a group of kings, which proves this point. But if Third Prince uses the power of the whole empire to deal with him, I'm afraid Lin Sun can't bear it. Qi Lingxiao said, Even if Lin Sun can bear it, where can the foundation and clansmen of Lin family escape? Third Prince is just a regent of the empire. He has the power to unify the government, but he doesn't really control the empire. I'm afraid it's difficult for him to do this with his identity. Someone frowned. Lin Sun was too strong. Such a horrible existence was enough to deter a country by himself. Anyone had to weigh whether they could bear the consequences when competing with such an existence. So, we just need to wait and see Third Prince's reaction, and then see the imperial family's opinion on this matter. Qi Lingxiao had recovered his calmness. Of course, we must do what we should do. From today on, all the forces of Qi family in the empire should not be hostile to anyone of Lin family. We would rather suffer losses and bear it than offend them. Everyone nodded. Lin Sun had proved his strength tonight. From today on, no matter who it was, they must know Lin family again. This night, it was not only Qi family. Almost all the forces and patriarchs of major clans in the Forbidden City were alarmed. Almost all of them had to stop everything in their hands to deal with the sudden monstrous event tonight. As they learned more and more news, all the major forces in the Forbidden City were shocked. The young man who filled the capital with his crown had returned. Tonight, he had single-handedly annihilated the Zhua and Qin clans, killing 19 clan lords in a row. What does this mean? Anyone with a brain would know. A top-class aristocratic family could stand in the Forbidden City for so long without being shaken. There was absolutely no doubt about its strong background and monstrous power. But tonight, 2 great clans had been trampled by a single person. This only proved that in Lin Sun's eyes, those superior forces were nothing at all. As for the 19 lords of aristocratic families who were killed by Lin Sun, they were nothing. Even the top aristocratic families couldn't withstand Lin Sun's suppression, let alone them. It's only been over 10 years since we last met, yet that young man from all those years ago already possesses the strength to summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. Even those old freaks at the king domain were like clay chickens that couldn't withstand a single blow before him. Who would dare believe that? Countless people were shocked, frightened, and aghast. It was simply appalling that a single person could kill those big shots and make their blood flow like a river. How terrifying was the power of the person who did this? How lucky is Lin family to have such a peerless, ruthless person? Some people sighed and sighed with emotion. Although Lin Sun was famous all over the world at that time, he was a peerless figure of the younger generation after all. Although his talent was amazing, he was not a big threat to those big forces. But now, who dared to look at him like this? It was no exaggeration to say that after tonight, those old freaks at the king domain would be afraid of Lin Sun when they mentioned him. The top-class forces such as Hua, Song, Xian Qi were also shocked tonight and completely sleepless. A long time ago, the younger generation of their clans had more or less conflicts and contradictions with Lin Sun. But those were the disputes of the younger generation. Later, the dean of Green Deer School came forward to mediate, and they had resolved the conflict with Lin Sun. But tonight, knowing the tragedy of Zhua and Qin clans, these top-class forces all had an indescribable sense of relief. Yes, relief. Relief that they had not participated in the action of suppressing Lin family in these years. Tonight's matter will depend on the third prince's decision. Many big forces turned their eyes to the imperial palace of the empire. As Qi Lingxiao analyzed, in the action of suppressing Lin family, Zhua and Qin clans would not dare to be so unscrupulous without the acquiescence of third prince Zhao Jingwen. But tonight, Lin Sun suddenly launched an attack, and blood flowed like a river. What decision would third prince Zhao Jingwen make? Would he stand up for Zhua and Qin clans? Third prince's decision may not represent the will of the entire empire. But everyone knew that in the face of such a big event, third prince's decision was very likely to determine the future fate of Lin family. It was late at night and dawn was not far away. Deep in the imperial palace, a series of rapid and sharp sounds rang out. "Master, something urgent happened." On the magnificent dragon bed, Zhao Jingwen woke up suddenly and frowned. "What's the matter?" "Master, it's a long story. Please go to Qianyuan Hall. Now many central ministers are waiting for you." Outside the hall, the sharp voice sounded again. Zhao Jingwen was shocked. Did he have to go to Qianyuan Hall for a meeting? Was the disaster of the demon beasts in the empire serious again? Or, the imperial army in the border area could not resist the attack of the 9 branches of voodoo barbarian? Thinking of this, Zhao Jingwen had a headache. In these years, although he replaced the great emperor to supervise the empire and take charge of the government, he was extremely anxious and perturbed. Because in these years, the empire was in constant internal and external troubles, which made Zhao Jingwen exhausted and miserable. "I see." Zhao Jingwen took a deep breath and began to dress. "What's the matter?" On the bed, an exceedingly charming beauty opened her hazy eyes and yawned as she stretched out half her body, revealing a large expanse of skin that was white as snow on her chest. Her languid and charming posture carried incomparable allure. She was Qin Rue, the youngest daughter of the head of Qin family. "It's none of your business. Have a good sleep." Zhao Jingwen said coldly, dressed neatly, and walked out of the hall. Being reprimanded like this, Qin Ryue's face froze, and then she sneered secretly, "Humph! Without the help of Qin family, how could you be the third prince today?" Qianyuan Hall. It was resplendent and brightly lit. When Zhao Jingwen arrived, he was immediately shocked in his heart. As far as the eye could see, there was actually a dense mass of figures gathered within the hall. Each of them was a big shot in the imperial court of the empire. Even some first-class figures of the royal family, such as princes, marquises and barons, and some old guys who had not been in court for a long time, appeared tonight. Something big must have happened. Zhao Jingwen's heart tightened, but his face was still calm. Sitting on the throne representing the emperor of the country, he frowned and asked, "What happened in the middle of the night? Why are all of you gathered here?" A minister came out and said in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, just now, Zhou family and Qin family were in trouble." The minister's voice echoed in the hall. Zhao Jingwen on the throne was completely stunned, and his head almost exploded. Lin Sun? This guy actually came back? Especially after knowing what Lin Sun had done tonight, the third prince's whole body stiffened, and his face was cloudy and uncertain. He pressed his hands tightly on the armrest of the dragon throne and gritted his teeth, so as not to show too much loss of self-control. But in the end, he couldn't control himself. He slapped the table and roared, "Lin Sun is simply insane." His voice echoed in the hall, and all the ministers were silent. Zhao Jingwen sat there, gasping for breath. His chest heaved up and down, and his face was gloomy. Zhou family and Qin family had a very close relationship with him. It could be said that they shared weal and woe together. But tonight, they were in trouble together, and the murderer was a person he couldn't even think of. All this shocked the third prince so much, like a giant hammer pounding on his heart. In the past, he wouldn't lose his composure like this even if he encountered a tricky thing. But at this time, he couldn't control the anger in his heart. Now the empire is in constant internal and external troubles. Lin Sun didn't want to serve the empire, but wantonly killed people of Zhou family and Qin family tonight. He is simply lawless and unforgivable. Zhao Jingwen gritted his teeth and looked at the people in the hall coldly. "Why don't you speak? Are you frightened by Lin Sun's killing?" Everyone became more and more silent, and no one spoke. Tonight's matter was too unusual. No matter who it was, they didn't dare to show their attitude easily. They came here just to see the third prince's attitude and decisiveness. They didn't want to be involved in this dangerous and unpredictable storm. The hall was silent and everyone was silent, which made Zhao Jingwen more angry. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Issue the decree." The two words were earth-shattering. The ministers were restless. They didn't expect that Zhao Jingwen would make a decision so quickly. Had he thought it over? Or, he was so angry that he didn't consider the seriousness of this matter at all? At this time, Zhao Jingwen took a deep breath and said word by word, "Lin Sun is treacherous and vicious. He killed the loyal people of the empire. His crime is unforgivable." The hall was silent. The ministers were all shocked. They realized that once this decree was issued, both Lin Sun and the Lin family behind him would be completely sinners of the empire. What awaited Lin Sun and the Lin family was the arrest and suppression from the whole empire. Would Lin Sun wait for death? Absolutely not. But how could he fight against the whole empire alone? For a moment, some people were happy and excited. Some people frowned, thinking that Zhao Jingwen's decree was completely in action to vent his anger. It was very irrational to ignore the current situation of the empire. Immediately, many people came forward to stop it. But at this time, bang! The door of Qianyuan Hall was pushed open by a huge force. The biting cold night wind swept into the hall, making many people feel cold all over. Zhao Jingwen's angry voice stopped abruptly. P.S. If you support Goldfish to continue to update tonight, please subscribe and monthly votes. Chapter 1395. The night was as dark as ink. It was the darkness before dawn. Swish! All eyes turned to the outside of the great hall at the same time. This was the imperial palace, the place of supreme power in the empire, and the great hall was the most important central place. Similarly, there were many hidden experts gathered here as well. There were hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and their strengths were unfathomable. Generally speaking, even the immortal-level powerhouses among the voodoo barbarians could not get close to the palace, let alone the great hall of heaven. But who dared to push open the door of the great hall so rudely in such a late night? Immediately, all the officials in the hall were shocked and completely understood. Outside the hall, there stood a beautiful figure in a dark purple palace dress. Her long black hair was coiled into a bun behind her head, revealing a beautiful and fair face. Her figure was graceful. Even though she was alone, she was like a high and mighty king as she stood there. She had the power to overlook the world and intimidate the masses. Zhao Jingxian. She was the legitimate daughter of the current emperor and the empress, regarded as the pearl of the empire, and a real proud daughter of the empire. In the imperial royal family, Zhao Jingxian was undoubtedly the most favored and trusted son of the current emperor. However, her appearance caught everyone off guard. Even Zhao Jingwen, who was sitting on the throne at the moment, stood up in shock and said involuntarily, "Elder sister, when did you come back?" And this was also the question of all the people in the hall. If they remembered correctly, this princess also left the empire more than 10 years ago for cultivation in the ancient Desolation realm. According to common sense, she should not be able to return to the inferior world. If I don't come back, I'm afraid you, Zhao Jingwen, will not be satisfied until the entire empire is destroyed, right? Zhao Jingshuan's face was calm and dignified. She walked into the hall. Immediately, all the officials made way for her, and no one even dared to look up at her. The reason was very simple. Although the aura emitted by Zhao Jingxian was invisible, it had the power to oppress all living beings, so that all the officials in the hall could only bow their heads. This was the real subservience. "Elder sister, what are you talking about?" Zhao Jingwen felt suffocated as he watched Zhao Jingxian walk over step by step, and he felt a shapeless pressure that caused his mind to tremble uncontrollably. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked. It had only been a little more than 10 years, but his eldest sister, who was most doted on by his imperial father, seemed to have become a completely different person. That kind of demeanor, aura, charm, simply had 30% of his father's elegant demeanor. Zhao Jingxian stopped when she arrived before the throne that represented supreme authority. Her clear eyes were calm, yet they carried a terrifying dignified aura. "Shameless monkey, come down." These words caused Zhao Jingwen's face to flush red. Under the gazes of all the officials in the hall, he was actually regarded as a monkey wearing a crown? This was undoubtedly a great humiliation. He took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and said, "Elder sister, before father left, he ordered me to supervise the country and take charge of the court. You have no right to restrict me." Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, he staggered and fell to the ground. At the same time, a terrifying pressure pressed down on him, causing him to be unable to get up no matter how he struggled. On the other hand, Zhao Jingxian casually sat on the throne, stretched out her slender and white fingers, and knocked on the table in front of her. She said, "From now on, I'll supervise the country." Her casual words caused the expressions of all the officials in the hall to change abruptly, and they realized that this royal highness actually wanted to seize power. "What? Do you have any objections?" Zhao Jingshuan's clear eyes narrowed, and the entire hall was covered by a terrifying pressure that suppressed all the officials to the point that it was difficult for them to breathe, and chills ran down their back. "We don't dare." Immediately, someone bowed and saluted. Instantly, the others cupped their hands and bowed. Who didn't know that the current emperor doted on and trusted Zhao Jingxian the most? Compared with her, the third prince, Zhao Jingwen, was nothing. After all, the power of the Xiao Empire belonged to the current emperor. Now that the emperor wasn't here, there was no difference whether they obeyed Zhao Jingxian or the third prince. Of course, in terms of status and identity, Zhao Jingxian was obviously more important than the third prince, Zhao Jingwen. Seeing the officials bowing to Zhao Jingxian, Zhao Jingwen almost collapsed and shouted, "Elder sister, you can't do this. This position belongs to me. It's mine." Bang! Zhao Jingshuan's expression was calm. She waved her sleeve, and Zhao Jingwen fainted and lay on the ground. "Come, carry the third prince out. When he wakes up, send him to guard the imperial mausoleum. Without my permission, he is not allowed to step out of the imperial mausoleum." Zhao Jingshuan's decree was tantamount to completely trampling on the third prince, Zhao Jingwen, and completely losing his power. Immediately, a group of guards appeared and took the third prince away. Seeing this scene, the officials completely understood that the internal power of the imperial palace had long been under the control of Zhao Jingxian. Otherwise, how could those guards be so obedient? Looking at the beautiful and majestic woman sitting on the throne in the center of the hall at this time, everyone knew in their hearts. From tonight on, all the affairs of the empire would be decided by the eldest princess, Zhao Jingxian. "Your Highness, tonight the Zhuo and Qin families." Someone broke the silence and came forward to report. But before he finished, he was interrupted by Zhao Jingxian. "I already know that it's not Lin family's fault. The Zhuo and Qin families can only blame themselves for the disaster." This sentence was tantamount to expressing the highest will and attitude of the empire. That was, even if Lin Sun killed a lot of people in the Forbidden City tonight, the imperial family would not investigate it. Similarly, they would not stand up for the Zhuo and Qin families. In addition, the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan control many industries and forces. I'm afraid they won't be able to use them in the future. I plan to use their properties as rewards. Anyone who is loyal to the empire will be eligible to receive such rewards." Zhao Jingxian said lightly. The ministers gasped. She was going to directly divide the territories and forces controlled by the Zhuo and Qin families. No one expected that Zhao Jingxian would be so decisive and cruel as soon as she took charge of the empire. After this decree was issued, even if the Zhuo and Qin families used to have great power and endless glory, they would eventually be blown away by the wind and rain. "Your Highness, how should we fight for the rewards?" Someone stood up, his eyes burning. Suddenly, other people also pricked up their ears and were tempted. The foundation of the Zhuo and Qin families was incomparably strong. The industries and forces they controlled were all over the empire. A casual bite of them could fill their stomachs. Now, the empire is plagued by demonic beasts and the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians invade the border. It's very simple for you to get the rewards based on military merit. Anyone who kills the enemy can get the rewards. Zhao Jingxian said indifferently, "I'll tell you what you can do. I can give you the rewards you deserve." The ministers agreed loudly. Everyone began to think about how to act. The fall of the Zhuo and Qin families was no less than the fall of 2 behemoths. Whoever could be a step ahead would be able to reap the greatest benefits from these 2 behemoths. Every single one of the officials in the hall represented a major clan, and they were spread across the entire empire. They would not be unfair to Zhuo Qinming. Suddenly, someone said, "Your Highness, many of the clansmen of the Zhuo and Qin families hold important positions in various regions of the empire. How should we deal with them?" "Dismiss them," Zhao Jingxian said without hesitation. Just 2 words, but they were very decisive. "What if they have bad intentions and don't obey orders?" The man continued to ask. "Just kill them," Zhao Jingxian said indifferently. "The vacated positions will also be a kind of reward. Whoever is capable can come and compete for them." All of a sudden, the ministers in the hall were excited. This was a great thing. They could not only divide the interests of the Zhuo and Qin families, but also seize the power that originally belonged to the 2 families. Zhao Jingxian looked at this scene calmly and thought, Lin Sun, you gave me a problem on the first day you came back. Fortunately, I came in time. I'll leave the specific matters to you to draft a plan. After I approve it, I'll promulgate it. Zhao Jingxian got up and walked out of the hall. Farewell, Your Highness. All the ministers bowed their heads, until Zhao Jingshuan's figure gradually disappeared outside the hall of Qianyuan. They breathed a long sigh of relief with different expressions. I didn't expect it. Some people sighed with complicated expressions. Too many things had happened tonight. Even now, they still felt like they were dreaming. First, Lin Sun returned and single-handedly killed the Zhuo and Qin families with unparalleled momentum, causing the Forbidden City to be in turmoil. Then, Zhao Jingwen, the third prince, was deprived of his power and completely lost his power. Zhao Jingxian, the eldest princess, jumped up and began to supervise the country. This series of sensational events had all happened in a single night. No matter how smart one's brain was, one would not be able to process it all at this moment. From now on, I'm afraid there are only 5 superior aristocratic families left in the Forbidden City, right? Someone murmured. In just one night, the world has changed, the winds and clouds have changed. Someone sighed. I heard that the eldest princess and Lin Sun were very good friends? Someone said something inexplicable, but it caused the hearts of all the officials to tremble. Lin Sun returned to the empire today, and Princess Royal seemed to return today as well. Did they return together? If so, the relationship between them was not simple. Moreover, the attitude of Princess Royal Highness tonight obviously meant that she stood on the side of Lin family and Lin Sun. It seems that I have to reconsider the relationship with Lin family in the future. Many people thought silently in their hearts. At the same time, Lin Sun turned into a divine rainbow and landed in the Hall of Heart-Cleansing Peak. This night, he killed all his enemies all the way. The hatred accumulated in his heart was also completely vented. At this time, standing alone on the top of the mountain, Lin Sun looked up slightly and saw a ray of dawn cutting through the night like a sharp knife, sprinkling a touch of dawn. It was dawn. P.S. Thank you, friends, for your tips and monthly tickets. I'll send more updates to you. Chapter 1396. When the first ray of dawn fell from the sky, it also illuminated the Forbidden City, which was sleeping in the night. For many ordinary people, this new day was no different from the past. But for the whole upper class of the Forbidden City, this new day was just the beginning of the storm. Last night's news was only known by the top forces. Now all kinds of forces, large and small, knew it. The Zhuo clan and the Qin clan were in trouble, and the heads of 19 aristocratic families were killed. This series of news couldn't be concealed at all. It was like a volcano that had been accumulating power for a long time, and it completely erupted on this new day. At this time, even the dullest forces knew that the situation in the Forbidden City changed overnight. Everything was because Lin Sun came back. At this time, the whole Lin clan was still waiting for the news. It was dawn. In the Hall of Heart-Cleansing Peak, a group of senior members of Lin family sat and waited all night. Vulture and Lin Zhong ordered that Lin family's disciples were not allowed to go out, so they were isolated from the world this night and didn't get any news. However, Lin Sun's return, like a ray of inspiring light, broke the haze in the hearts of every clansman of Lin family. In these years, the situation of Lin family was so miserable that it was on the verge of collapse. Lin Sun's return let all clansmen of Lin family see hope again. Is it okay for the patriarch to go out alone? Someone couldn't help asking. The patriarch should go to the imperial palace to find the third prince. Only the third prince may be able to suppress the arrogance of the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan. Someone analyzed calmly. Anyway, it's a happy event for the patriarch to come back. No matter how bad the situation is, let's face it together. Vulture and Lin Zhong were silent, listening to the discussion of the crowd. Only they knew what Lin Sun was going to do. Patriarch. Suddenly, Someone called out and saw Lin Sun's figure appearing outside the hall. All of a sudden, all of them stood up and looked at Lin Sun, who came back in the morning light with a hopeful look on their faces. "Don't worry, everyone. It's all solved," Lin Sun said with a smile. "It's all solved?" Everyone was stunned at first. Then the whole heart-cleansing hall burst into an uproar and was replaced by various voices. Some people were so excited that they danced. Some people patted their knees and cried tears of joy. Some people laughed, some people shouted, and some people wept. In these past few years, the Lin clan had been in a precarious situation, their situation worsening day by day, and they were in danger of being annihilated. This caused every single Lin clan member to feel as if a heavy boulder was pressing down on their hearts, and they were on the verge of being unable to breathe. But at this time, because of Lin Sun's words, all the emotions accumulated in everyone's hearts were completely vented. Only after a long time did everyone calm down slightly. "I've embarrassed myself in front of the patriarch." Lin Huayuan and the others were a little embarrassed. Lin Sun said disapprovingly, "I understand your feelings. Patriarch, will the Zhua and Qin families really not attack us anymore?" Lin Huayuan could not help but ask. The others also pricked up their ears. Shaking his head with a smile, Lin Sun didn't try to hide anything. He told her what happened last night in a brief and understated way. However, when he finished speaking, the hall was already completely silent, not a single sound could be heard. Shock, absent-mindedness, and disbelief were written all over their faces. Even Lin Zhong and Vulture's faces were stiff and their hearts were pounding. "I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go to the ancestral shrine to have a look." Lin Sun got up and floated away. If what the patriarch said is true, doesn't it mean that the Zhua and Qin families are destined to be removed from the Forbidden City from now on? Lin Baiguang broke the silence in the hall until Lin Sun disappeared. "But why do I feel so unreal?" someone said in a daze. So did the others. They were so shocked that they couldn't think straight. It wasn't until a few hours later, when they learned all kinds of news from the outside world, that the Lin clan was finally convinced. All of this was real. The Lin clan of Heart-Cleansing Peak was also boiling. More than 10 years ago, Lin Sun entered the Forbidden City as a teenager and then began a dazzling rise like a comet. In only 3 years, he became a young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos in the limelight. He was the instructor of Green Deer School of the Empire. He was the master of Heart-Cleansing Peak. At that time, he was the leader of the younger generation of the Empire. He was unparalleled in the capital. Who could forget such a legendary young man? Today, more than 10 years later, this young man came back and reappeared in people's sight in a way that could shock the Empire. Overnight, he killed so many people that their blood flowed like a river. Even the night of the Forbidden City was dim. This shocked everyone. It also let everyone know that after so many years, the young man who could only dominate the younger generation had become completely different. What? Lin Sun really came back? In the headquarters of the commune of spiritual tattooists, Ubeidu, a senior spiritual tattooist, raised his eyebrows and said excitedly, "So, Lin family is saved?" Next to him, Chu Feng laughed, "Haha, the crisis of Lin family has been solved as early as last night." Ubeidu was shocked and asked hurriedly, "What happened last night?" Chu Feng threw a jade slip to him and said, "I have engraved what happened last night in it. You can see it clearly at a glance." Ubeidu took the jade slip and looked at it. After a long time, he burst into a wild laughter. "Zhua and Qin Liang family also have this day? I have said that as long as Lin Sun is in Lin family, whoever offends Lin family will suffer." Both Ubeidu and Chu Feng had a deep friendship with Lin Sun in those years. In these years, when Lin family was in trouble, they also helped secretly. Unfortunately, although they were spiritual tattooists, how could they have the power to challenge the Zhua and Qin families? At this time, when they learned that Lin Sun returned to the Forbidden City after more than 10 years and killed the Zhua and Qin families, They felt very happy. "Let's go and have a drink," Yu Beidou shouted loudly. "Aren't you going to refine a batch of treasures today?" Chu Feng asked. "Refine no more. Let's drink," Yu Beidou shouted and rushed out of the commune of spiritual tattooists. It could be seen how excited and happy he was. Chu Feng couldn't help laughing and hurriedly caught up with him. In the school of spiritual tattoos in Green Deer School, a girl with picturesque eyebrows and a cold temperament was having a class. From time to time, some people peeped at her, some with admiration, some with jealousy, and some with amazement. In everyone's view, this girl seemed to be the proud daughter of God. His appearance and knowledge were top-notch, and he was now the youngest senior spiritual tattooist in the spiritual tattoo yard. But when the girl listened to the class, she frowned from time to time and seemed to be in a trance, as if she had a lot on her mind. "Yang Jingyao, pay attention and concentrate." On the rostrum, Shen Tuo, the spiritual tattooist, reminded her gently. "Okay." Yang Jingyao took a deep breath and nodded. Suddenly, a shout came from outside the classroom, "Yang Jingyao, Fan Jiqiu." More than 10 names were called in a row. In the end, the voice was almost roaring, "Instructor Kobayashi is back." Clang! The desk in front of them was turned over. Under the surprised gaze of the crowd, Yang Jingyao, Fan Jiqiu and other outstanding senior spiritual tattooists in the yard all rushed out of the classroom without hesitation. "These guys are too rude. This is the school, and the class hasn't ended yet." Someone muttered and expressed his dissatisfaction. Many people looked at Shen Tuo on the rostrum. However, to their surprise, Shen Tuo, the spiritual tattooist they respected the most, was also very excited at the moment and muttered to himself, "Lin is back? That's great, that's great." As he spoke, he directly threw away the scroll in his hand and ran out of the classroom. "Class is over. Class is over. There is no class today." Before his voice died away, Shen Tuo had already disappeared, leaving a group of dumbfounded students in the classroom. "Coach Lin? Who is he?" Someone muttered. "It's him. The young spiritual tattooist who made the armor with spiritual tattoos. Fan Jiqiu and Yang Jingyao were his students at that time." Someone shouted. He also wanted to get up. Suddenly, the whole classroom was in an uproar. They all remembered a legendary figure from the yard of spiritual tattoos more than 10 years ago. That person was Lin Sun, a famous spiritual tattooist in the empire. At the beginning, he was the coach of Class C9. On this day, the news of Lin Sun's return also caused a sensation in Green Deer School. Similar scenes began to play out in various areas of the Forbidden City. As the news spread, more and more people and forces got to know that after many years, the young Mount Master who was famous in the Forbidden City was back. On the same day, careful people would find that almost all the forces in the Forbidden City sent messengers with valuable gifts to Heart-Cleansing Peak from all directions. It was vast and mighty, and it could be said to be a spectacle. Some people saw that the car of Qi Lingxiao, the patriarch of Qi family, appeared in front of Heart-Cleansing Peak. Some people also saw that some princes, marquises and nobles in the imperial family also went to Heart-Cleansing Peak in person. For a time, Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak became the focus of attention in the Forbidden City. Big shots from all sides came one after another. But at this time, Lin family refused to see any guests. This seemed to be extremely rude, and it caused many great powers that were paying attention to all of this in secret to feel astounded and in disbelief. But it was also because of this that many forces realized that Lin family was really different now because of Lin Sun's return. Otherwise, Lin family would not dare to be so tough that they even dared to refuse Qi Lingxiao, the patriarch of a superior family. However, no one dared to be annoyed. On the contrary, their attitude became more humble. The power and foundation of Zhou family and Qin family were monstrous, but they were destroyed by Lin Sun overnight. At this time, if anyone dared to be insensible, he might follow the footsteps of Zhou family and Qin family. From now on, we must change our attitude towards Lin family. This was the consensus reached by all the major forces. P.S. As usual, 2 updates in a row. Chapter 1397. Today you don't care about me, but tomorrow I'll let you down. Although this sentence was a little vulgar, it could be used to describe the situation of Lin family today. The masters of many forces and clans in the Forbidden City were all well-informed people. They all knew what happened in the Great Hall of Qianyuan in the Imperial City last night. From the moment Princess Royal Highness took power and took charge of the government, Zhuo family and Qin family were doomed to perish. Everyone knew that Princess Royal Highness was on the side of Lin family. In this case, anyone with a little brain knew that from now on, Lin family would be unstoppable and no one dared to provoke them again. On this day, the whole Forbidden City was shocked by Lin Sun's performance overnight. Countless forces focused their eyes on Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak, looking at the legendary figure. At that time, Lin Sun was crowned all over the capital. However, he was only the most outstanding among the younger generation. Now, he proved to the world by removing the names of the 2 top forces of Zhuo family and Qin family and the heads of 19 leaders of Zhuo family. Lin Sun alone was enough to trample the top forces under his feet. In the back mountain of Heart-Cleansing Peak, the ancestral temple of Lin family was shrouded in mist, quiet. Lin Sun stood alone in front of the ancestral tablets of the Lin family, silent. The mottled light emanated from the numerous lamps illuminated his solitary figure, and it added a wisp of a lonely feeling to him. On those tablets there were the names of his great-grandfather, Lin Daochen, parents, grandfathers and lineal relatives. They were familiar and strange, because they had never met before. But Lin Sun knew that as the son of Lin Wenjing and Luo Qingxuan, some things must be borne by him. Such as revenge. Yun Qingbai is dead. He is just a pawn. The real culprit behind the scenes is a quasi-emperor from the ancient Yin territory. His name is Ba Qi. I will find him later. I will also thoroughly investigate the truth of that bloody incident. Lin Sun murmured in his heart. He stood here for a long time like a lifeless clay statue. Until dusk fell and the setting sun shone. Lin Sun took a deep breath and turned to leave. However, the moment he walked out of the ancestral shrine, he muttered to himself, "Actually, I never thought that you would die just like that. I will find the answer." Under the setting sun, Lin Sun's black eyes were calm, neither happy nor sad. In the distance, sounds came one after another. It was the Lin clan members cheering. In short, 2 major events happened that night. First, Lin Sun came back, destroyed the Zhuo and Qin families alone, killed 19 heads of aristocratic families, and stirred up the Forbidden City. Secondly, the eldest princess, Zhao Jingxian, would replace the 3rd prince, Zhao Jingwen, and hold the highest authority in the empire. However, the effects of these 2 events had only just begun to spread. In the following period of time, in the Forbidden City, all the forces related to the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan suffered a devastating blow. All the forces that had attacked the Lin family were retaliated against. They were either destroyed or expelled. It was Zhao Jingxian who led all this behind the scenes. The specific actions were taken by different forces in the Forbidden City. For example, the other 5 upper aristocratic families besides the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan, and the other middle and lower aristocratic families in the Forbidden City. When the 2 behemoths fell, who wouldn't take the opportunity to bite them? Although the Lin family didn't move a soldier, it became the biggest winner. At least, no matter which party divided the interests of the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan, they would prepare a generous gift for the Lin family. As a result, in less than half a month, the industries owned by the Lin family accumulated at an exaggerated speed. Many mines, manors, spiritual veins, treasures, wealth were constantly accumulating in the accounts belonging to the Lin family like running water. The momentum of the Lin family is unstoppable. This was the feeling of all the forces and people. What happened that night in the Forbidden City also spread to all the territories of the Empire in the following time, causing a lot of shock and uproar. Even the monster army that was causing trouble in the territory of the Empire knew these things and remembered the name of Lin Sun. A monster leader called Purple Snake King, who was in the longevity realm, even laughed and said, "I wish there would be more similar things in the Empire." Because this was the internal strife of human practitioners, which consumed the internal power of the Empire. The fall of the Zhou clan and the Qin clan meant that the top power of the Empire had been sharply reduced. As the enemy of the Empire, the monster forces were certainly happy to see this. Similarly, in the border areas of the Empire. After learning the news, the 9 barbarian lineages that were invading the Empire on a large scale also gloated and felt that God was helping them. When the Empire was in turmoil, only the enemy would benefit. This was the truth that everyone understood. 1 month later, the impact of the events of that night had gradually subsided. But the Forbidden City of the Empire was not peaceful. During this period of time, the scourge of demon beasts within the territory of the Empire was rapidly spreading. Many provinces and cities had fallen into the flames of war and incomparably tragic battles. The monster army, like locusts, burned, killed, robbed, and committed all kinds of crimes. They occupied one city after another and slaughtered countless people of the Empire. At the same time, the major border areas of the Empire were also in a state of emergency. The 9 barbarian lineages invaded the Empire on a large scale, and it was possible that they could break through the defense line of the Empire at any time. Under such a situation of internal and external troubles, the Empire seemed to be more and more turbulent. Every day, the latest news was sent from different battlefields to the Forbidden City and presented to Zhao Jingxian, the eldest princess of the Imperial Palace. However, almost none of the news was good. Imperial father and Imperial mother have left, leaving behind such a mess. Looking at the thick pile of memorials piled up on one side and reviewed, Zhao Jingxian couldn't help but show a trace of helplessness. Since she took charge of the Empire to the present, she had hardly stopped and had to deal with all kinds of miscellaneous things every day. Compared to that, she still preferred to cultivate. "Your Highness, there are some unfavorable rumors about the head of Lin family in the Forbidden City recently," an old man serving on one side suddenly said. "Tell me about it." Zhao Jingxian was stunned. "These rumors can't be taken seriously. Don't take them to heart." The old man was a steward in the Imperial Palace. He was also an extremely powerful practitioner and belonged to the Imperial Palace. As he said, the old man told her some rumors. It turned out that recently there were discussions everywhere in the Forbidden City. It was said that it was because Lin Sun overthrew the 2 top aristocratic families that the empire fell into great turmoil, so that the monster army and the 9 barbarian lineages seized the opportunity to invade. Humph! A cold light flashed in Zhao Jingxuan's clear eyes. It's ridiculous. When the Zhou and Qin families were still in power, the internal and external troubles in the empire were not solved. Why did someone put the blame on Lin Sun as soon as the 2 families were destroyed? Your Highness, calm down. It's just a rumor. Don't take it seriously, the old man said hurriedly. Zhao Jingxian sighed faintly. Gossip is a fearful thing. When more and more rumors come out, false things will become true. At that time, how will the whole empire view Lin Sun and Lin family behind him? Your Highness, do you want to find out who spread these rumors? The old man's turbid eyes glowed. No need. Zhao Jingxian pondered for a while. Then she stood up from behind the table and walked out of the hall. I'll go to find Lin Sun in person. In her heart, she muttered to herself, I've been so troubled. How could you stay on heart-cleansing peak all the time? No, I can't let you be too idle. Heart-cleansing peak. The green pines were like umbrellas and the clouds were curling. The sea of clouds fell on one side of the cliff like a waterfall. Lin Sun looked leisurely. He was lying in a rattan chair with a green leather gourd in his hand. There was fine wine in the gourd. Over the past month, Lin family on Heart-Cleansing Peak had undergone earth-shaking changes. They were busy, lively and prosperous. Lin soon saw it but didn't intervene. These trivial things were all taken care of by Lin Zhong, Vulture and Lin Huayuan. He was very idle. To be honest, he was not good at dealing with these trivial things. However, Lin Sun was not idle all the time. He had been practicing body refining, qi refining and soul refining. At the same time, he was also diligently practicing Taixuan sword scripture. Now he had cultivated 1,300 Taixuan sword qi in 1,300 acupoints in his body. Every single strand of sword qi possessed peerless might, and they were nurtured within the acupoints, just like how they were nurtured within the sword nurturing furnace, allowing them to be tempered and improved at all times. Destiny. Destiny. Looking at the clouds in the sky, Lin Sun, who was lying in the rattan chair, was lost in thought. Now, his qi refining cultivation had reached the perfection of the 7 tribulations of longevity and was about to usher in the 8th tribulation of longevity, destiny disaster. But up to now, he had not sensed any sign of breaking through the tribulation. When he was in the domain of death, Lin Sun realized that if he wanted to break through the destiny disaster, he should start from himself. So he decided to return to Heart-Cleansing Peak in the mortal world. Because he was born here, his destiny was also born here. If he wanted to break through the destiny disaster, he should trace back to its source. Heart-Cleansing Peak is the place where I was born, but I grew up in that mind prison. Until I met the heaven-accessing place, I had the opportunity to change my destiny and set foot on the real road of cultivation. Lin Sun suddenly realized that the so-called destiny power might have come when he was born, but it had a reversal after he grew up. This reversal was because of the heaven-accessing place. Lin Sun's eyes suddenly became erratic, and an old figure appeared in his mind. Master Lu, who are you, this heaven-accessing secret land? Where did you find it? P.S. I can't update tonight. I'm stuck. Let me adjust my thoughts. It would be better if my friends could subscribe and encourage me. Chapter 1398. There were green pines and cypresses and flowing clouds like a waterfall. When Zhao Jingxian came to the top of Heart-Cleansing Peak, she saw Lin Sun lying lazily in the rattan chair with a leisurely look from a distance. He was also holding a green gourd in his hand. It seemed that he was watching the wind and clouds and had nothing to do. This made her widen her eyes and grind her teeth secretly. She was so anxious, but this guy enjoyed it so much. Humph! Zhao Jingxian snorted coldly with a straight face. In the rattan chair, Lin Sun, who was wandering, picked up the wine gourd and poured wine into his mouth. When he heard this, he suddenly coughed out the wine in his mouth and wiped his mouth repeatedly. Jingxian, why did you suddenly come out? Lin Sun was surprised. Zhao Jingxian couldn't help laughing, but she finally held back and snorted. If I didn't come, how could I know that you are so leisurely? She wore a simple plain white dress, and her fine black hair was tied behind her head with a red string, revealing a fair and beautiful face that was both happy and angry at the same time. At this time, she stood in the misty clouds in the distance. Her figure was graceful, like a fairy coming to the world. It was also at this moment that Lin Sun realized, the most beautiful time for a woman was when she wanted to keep a straight face but couldn't help laughing. Just like Zhao Jingxian at this time. It's really beautiful, Lin Sun praised. It came from the bottom of his heart and came naturally. Originally, Zhao Jingxian felt a little aggrieved in her heart. She felt that she had been so busy for the affairs of Lin family during this period, but this guy was so disloyal to her. But after hearing these 2 words of praise, all the anger and grievances in his heart inexplicably disappeared. Don't flatter me. She glared at Lin Sun fiercely with her clear eyes, which had a different kind of intoxicating charm. Lin Sun got up with a smile and quickly gave up the rattan chair for Zhao Jingxian to sit down. He stood on one side, cupped his hands and said respectfully, I didn't know your highness would come here. Please forgive me for not greeting you in person. Zhao Jingxian made an O sound and said indifferently, You can avoid the death penalty, but you can't escape punishment. Little Lin, you're in big trouble this time. Lin Sun was amused in his heart, but he said in surprise, Your Highness, I've always been law-abiding and have never done anything against reason and nature. My heart can be proved by the sun and the moon and God. You can't wrong a good man. A look of fear and trepidation appeared on his face. Zhao Jingxian could no longer hold back her laughter. She spat, All right, enough with your glib tongue in front of me. You are the great demon Godlin, yet you still dare to call yourself a good person who knows his place? If the news spreads to the ancient Desolation realm, those big forces will drown you with their saliva. Lin Sun also laughed and sat down on an ancient rock on one side, saying, You seem to have something on your mind, so I'm just teasing you. Zhao Jingxian said, Since you know that I have something on my mind, can you help me resolve it? Lin Sun said with a smile, When have I ever refused the things you proposed? Zhao Jingxian seemed to think of something, and a touch of softness appeared between her eyebrows. She said, This matter has something to do with you. I think it's better for you to solve it. Lin Sun's expression became serious. What happened? Recently, there have been many rumors about you in the Forbidden City. It's said that because of your indiscriminate killing of the Zhua and Qin families, the internal and external troubles of the empire are getting more and more serious. Zhao Jingxian divulged some information. Lin Sun didn't take it seriously at first, but later he realized that something was wrong. He said, Are you going to regard me as the culprit who caused the turmoil in the world? Zhao Jingxian said, It's not that serious. But you know, there are more and more rumors. As time goes by, false ones will become true. After a pause, she continued, And I suspect that the people who spread these rumors are very likely to be related to the remnants of the Zhua and Qin families. There are even some people with ulterior motives who add fuel to the fire. Lin Sun asked, What's their purpose? Zhao Jingxian said with a smile, You don't understand. A tall tree attracts the wind. Your Lin family is now in the limelight and is the focus of the world. It's inevitable that you will be envied and hated by others. Lin Sun also knew that this kind of thing was inevitable. It was impossible to shut the mouths of all living beings in the world with only killing and deterrence. Zhao Jingxian said, Now your enemies, such as the monster army and the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians, are also praising you. Lin Sun was stunned. What's going on? Zhao Jingxian looked playful and joked. You overthrew the Zhua and Qin families, which is equivalent to indirectly helping these enemies weaken the power of the empire. Of course, they are happy to see it and want you to do more similar good deeds. Lin Sun understood and couldn't help being speechless for a while. Then he sneered. Are they mocking me for only daring to fight among myself? Zhao Jingxian nodded. I think so too. If it were me, I would never tolerate it. Lin Sun laughed and pointed to Zhao Jingxian, saying, I understand. You want me to help you kill the enemies. Zhao Jingxian smiled slightly, revealing her white teeth, and said, No, I want to help you crush the rumors so that all living beings in the world will not dare to slander you again. Lin Sun got up from the rock, stretched himself, and said, Well, I'm a little free these days. It's time to go out for a walk. Whoosh! Zhao Jingxian threw out a jade slip and said, It records some information about the monster army distributed in the empire today. Obviously, she had already prepared it for Lin Sun. We must be careful. This lower realm is not as simple as we thought it to be. After the upheaval occurred, many strange things happened. For example, those monstrous beast armies seem to have appeared out of thin air. In the previous empires, such things definitely did not happen. Zhao Jingxuan's expression became serious. Lin Sun nodded and then said, By the way, I also need your help with one thing. Zhao Jingxian said happily, Go ahead. Help me find out everything about Lu Boy. Lin Sun's eyes were deep. Lu Boya? Zhao Jingxian narrowed her clear eyes. She also vaguely knew that Lin Sun grew up with Master Lu. Yes. Lin Sun nodded. In the past, he thought Master Lu was just a grumpy spiritual tattooist. But now he was the supreme king of the seventh retribution of longevity. Now recalling all the experiences of his youth, he felt that Master Lu was definitely not a simple person. To be able to rescue him from the hands of a quasi-emperor when he was still a baby, how could an ordinary person be able to do this? And as far as Lin Sun knew, Master Lu had left many traces in the empire. Many years ago, big shots such as the Queen of Dark Night, the Dean of Green Deer School, the old priest on the observatory, the current emperor, the empress all knew the existence of Master Lu. But it was still a mystery as to who Master Lu was and what his identity was. Lin Sun had a strong feeling that as long as he could uncover Master Lu's identity, he might be able to further understand some clues about his mother Luo Qingxuan. Well, leave it to me. Zhao Jingxian nodded. She now controlled the supreme power of the empire. It was not difficult for her to find out some old things. Grandad Zhong, choose 10 young people from the clan. I only have one requirement. They must be tenacious and loyal to Lin family. Tomorrow morning, I will take them to the front line to kill demons. When Zhao Jingxian left, Lin Sun immediately ordered Lin Zhong. Yes. Lin Zhong took the order and left. But Lin Sun didn't expect that his casual arrangement caused a sensation in the whole heart-cleansing peak. The youths of the Lin clan were all gathered for a special selection. Xiefeng, although you are a little old, you are still the cousin of the family head. This time, I want you to fight for this rare opportunity. If you can follow the family head to kill demons, it won't be difficult for you to break through the king realm with the family head's means. Lin Huayuan said amiably with a kind face. Lin Xiefeng hesitated, but I still have a lot of things to do. Lin Huayuan was exasperated. Stupid! Don't you see that the head of Lin family intends to cultivate a group of strong people? What is more important than this? Lin Xiefeng said helplessly. Let me have a try. Lin Huayuan immediately laughed. You must work hard. Xing you are the seedling with the greatest potential and talent in our line. According to seniority, the clan head is your uncle. No matter what, you must firmly grasp this opportunity. Do you understand? Yunyan, in today's Forbidden City, your uncle is a legend. His cultivation is so high that he is like a dragon in the sky. People can only look up to him. Following by his side to kill demons is simply no different from obtaining a supreme fortuitous encounter. Such a conversation was staged in the whole heart-cleansing peak. Every young man of Lin family was seriously exhorted by the elders. Those of the younger generation realized that this was an extremely precious opportunity as well, so they couldn't help but feel excited and perturbed. Lin Sun, who didn't know him in the Forbidden City now? One person was a legend. We must seize this opportunity. Many young people of Lin family secretly made up their mind. At the same time, Lin Zhong also became a hot potato in the eyes of the big shots of Lin family. They tried all kinds of ways to fight for a place for their children. Lin Zhong was so worried that he almost hid himself. At the same time, Lin Sun was talking with Vulture. So, Red Eagle King is very likely to be alive? When Lin Sun returned, he heard that a strong man of Zhou family regarded Red Eagle King as a traitor on the front line. Now, he was about to go to the front line to kill demons. If possible, he wanted to see if Red Eagle King was still alive. As far as we know, Red Eagle King finally escaped with serious injuries, but he hasn't returned so far, so it's impossible to determine whether he is alive or not. Vulture frowned. Well, I'll go and have a look myself. Lin Sun made a decision. Red Eagle King had made a lot for Lin family over the years. Now he was regarded as a traitor. How could Lin Sun ignore him? Chapter 1399. The next morning, in front of the heart-cleansing hall, there were already dozens of men and women standing. They were all the younger generation of Lin family. Lin Xiefeng, the oldest among them, was Lin Sun's cousin in terms of seniority. The youngest one was only 11 or 12 years old, so he had to call Lin Sun uncle. Everyone was waiting silently, their faces filled with nervousness, anxiety, anticipation, and longing. When Lin Sun walked out of the heart-cleansing hall, he saw such a scene. "Didn't you say only 10 people?" Lin Sun was stunned. "Young master, you'd better choose by yourself." Lin Zhong smiled bitterly. Lin Sun glanced at the distance, where many big shots of Lin family were looking forward to the selection with a hopeful look on their faces. He immediately understood and couldn't help laughing. He was here to kill demons, not to travel around the world with a group of little kids. Finally, he glanced at the field and selected 10 disciples of Lin family. They were all at the level of sea spirit realm with great potential. Although they were not rare geniuses in the world, their aptitude was relatively good. Of course, in Lin Sun's mind, aptitude and potential were secondary. The key was temperament. To cultivate was to cultivate the mind. As long as those with dull aptitude persevered, they would have a good accumulation on the road of cultivation in the future. If a talented person's temperament was unstable, he was doomed to not go far on the road of cultivation. For example, the 10 people selected by Lin Sun showed a kind of calmness and firmness different from others. After knowing the result, some people were depressed, some were happy, and so on. Lin Xiefeng was a little embarrassed. He was the oldest one in the field and was also Lin Sun's cousin, but he was not selected. Although he didn't have much hope at the beginning, he was inevitably a little disappointed at this time. "Xiefeng, you come with us." Hearing Lin Sun's voice, Lin Xiefeng was stunned. Then he grinned and nodded again and again. Lin Sun looked at Lin Zhong. "Grandad Zhong, you must do a good job in the treasure house. As long as you are a disciple of Lin family, you will be rewarded as long as you perform well." Lin Zhong nodded. "Don't worry, young master." Lin Sun agreed. Over the years he had spent in the realm of ancient desolation, he had collected a large amount of spiritual materials, divine treasures, elixirs, ancient records, and other treasures. Now, he was already at the peak of the longevity 7th tribulation realm. Some treasures were no longer needed, so he took them all out and left them in the Lin family's treasure house and the heart-cleansing peak. It was all for the sake of giving the Lin family a chance to rise as quickly as possible in this upheaval of the world. For example, this time, Lin Sun took 10 Lin family disciples to the front line to kill demons. He also had the idea of cultivating and helping them grow. After all, the Battle of the 9 Regions would begin within 10 years. At that time, he would definitely have to leave. Lin Sun's plan was to do as much as possible for Lin family in the next 10 years, so that he would have no worries before he left. Whoosh! Before long, the vast universe arc soared into the sky, carrying Lin Sun, Lin Xiefeng, and the 10 juniors of the Lin family. On the treasure ship, Lin Sun opened the jade slip, which recorded the detailed information of the demon army distributed in the Empire. In the southwest province of the Empire, outside the Falling Stars City, in the depths of the Ghost Mountain Range, there is an army of demon beasts. The leader, golden-armored Demon King, has an army of 100,000 demon beasts and 72 demon generals. In the great swamp of the Python Mountain in the Yunguang province of the Empire, there are 9 demon kings and a group of demon beasts. They run amok in one place, and their leader is Mysterious Dark King, in the Norland province of the Empire. The news reflected in Lin Sun's mind like running water, making him frown. Up to now, nearly half of the provinces within the Empire's borders had been plagued by a massive demon plague. This was a very serious problem. At the end of the message, Lin Sun had a general impression in his mind. Demon kings were demon cultivators that possessed a cultivation at the king realm or above, and all of them were living beings that had attained the Tao from beasts, plants, and the like. In today's empire, there were 36 known demon kings. Among them, the The greatest threat to the empire was the black-robed king in the southern province of the empire. His strength was unfathomable. It was said that he had the terrible cultivation of the 9 retributions of longevity realm, and even probably had entered the saint realm. The black-robed king rarely showed up, and the news about him was the least, which made him extremely mysterious. The 9 retributions of longevity realm, or the saint realm. I don't know what kind of creature the black-robed king is. Lin Sun was lost in thought. This was very abnormal. As Zhao Jingxian said, there were very few demon practitioners in the empire in the past. But with the upheaval of heaven and earth more than 10 years ago, more and more demon beasts, demon practitioners, and demon kings began to appear in the empire. It was like they appeared out of thin air. Lin Sun didn't believe that a large number of King Realm strongmen could be created in the world in just over 10 years. In other words, there was something wrong with the origin of these demon beasts. At the same time, Lin Sun also noticed that with the upheaval of heaven and earth, the territory of the empire had obviously expanded, more than 3 times larger than before. In some territories, there were many famous mountains, blessed lands, rivers, lakes which had never appeared before. According to Zhao Jingxian, the former empire was like a sealed area, showing only a corner of the world. But now, with the upheaval of heaven and earth, the seal was also lifted, allowing more and more territories to appear in the world. And with the upheaval of heaven and earth, this situation would appear more and more in the future. It's really weird. Lin Sun had known that the mortal world was not simple, but he didn't expect that such a strange thing would happen in the empire. Patriarch, where are we going to kill the demon beasts this time? Lin Xiefeng came and interrupted Lin Sun's thoughts. Go to the southwest province, Lin Sun said casually. The Red Eagle King met an accident in the depths of the Een Sol Mountain outside the Falling Stars City in the southwest province of the empire. At the same time, the southwest province also had a special significance for Lin Sun. When he first came to the empire, the place he entered was Donglin Town, a border city in the southwest province of the empire. On the day Lin Sun left, the news broke out in the Forbidden City. Lin Sun, the owner of Heart Cleansing Peak, had left the Forbidden City and went to the front line to eradicate the demon beast. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples, which surprised many people. Recently, there were many news in the Forbidden City. It was said that it was because Lin Sun overthrew the Zhua and Qin families that the demon beast's army and the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians seized the opportunity to further invade the empire. They attacked Lin Sun as a sinner. But now, Lin Sun was obviously going to fight back. From the beginning to the end, he didn't explain anything at all. He was going to kill the demon beasts directly. The news spread so fast that it shocked the Forbidden City for the first time. Recently, the situation of the empire became more and more turbulent. Whether it was the disaster of the demon beasts or the invasion of the 9 branches of voodoo barbarians, all people in the empire were in a panic. Now, Lin Sun was going to attack. Who wouldn't pay attention to it? Could this unparalleled ruthless man who could destroy 2 upper-class forces single-handedly turn the tide and suppress the demons and alleviate the situation in the empire all by himself? Great! With Lord Lin Sun's attack, the demon beast's army will be scared out of their wits. Who said Senior Lin Sun only knows how to bully his own people? Come out and I'll scold him to death. I'm looking forward to Senior Lin's victory and triumphant return. In the Forbidden City, even ordinary people felt excited when they heard the news. Their affection for Lin Sun also soared. During this period of time, the demon beast's army frequently invaded the empire, burning, killing and looting, which had already aroused public indignation. Now Lin Sun's attack made people excited. If it were someone else, it would not have aroused such great attention. But Lin Sun was different. For all the people in the empire today, he was like a legend, an invincible legend. He alone was enough to stir up the Forbidden City and cause a shock in the empire. Now, he was going to get rid of the demon beast. Who wouldn't be excited? Some rumors, slander about Lin Sun were also eliminated with the spread of the sensational news. There was no soil for them to survive. This guy finally began to do something beneficial to the empire. Even some aristocratic families sighed with emotion. Lin Sun was very powerful and made many forces very afraid. Now that he was able to stand up and eradicate the demon beasts, it was naturally a happy thing. A few days later, even some of the demon beasts in the territory of the empire were alarmed. After hearing the news, there was an uproar. Some demon kings frowned and began to be vigilant. There were also some demon kings with arrogant expressions and threatened, "Lin Sun? If he dares to come, I'll show him what it means to be reckless." This arrogant and contemptuous attitude angered many imperial powerhouses. It didn't take long to find out that this demon king was the Bloodfall King, who was entrenched in the northwest province of the empire. He was an extremely powerful demon king realm cultivator. I admire Lin Sun very much. I happen to lack a capable human slave by my side now. Lin Sun is undoubtedly a very good candidate. The Golden Armor King, entrenched in the depths of the Een Sol Mountain in the southwest province of the empire, made such a bold statement that he wanted to take Lin Sun as a slave. For a moment, many people gasped. The Golden Armor King was a terrifying demon cultivator and was extremely famous. Just wait, Lin Sun will definitely go to the southwest province. Golden Armor King, you'd better wash your neck and wait. There were also many imperial powerhouses who were gnashing their teeth in anger. Only Zhao Jingxian revealed a strange expression because she knew that the first target Lin Sun would choose to kill was the Golden Armor King. At that time, if the Golden Armor King saw Lin Sun, what kind of expression would he have? Whoosh! At this time, the vast universe arc was shuttling through the clouds. As the master, Lin Sun was guiding the cultivation of the 10 Lin family juniors, preaching to them and dispelling their doubts. He didn't notice that because of his trip, it had already caused a sensation in the empire and attracted a lot of attention. P.S. Thank you, Fan Huaying, for your gift. Regarding the updates, Goldfish has been busy recently. Maintaining a normal 2 updates is already the limit. Everyone, please bear with it. In the middle of this month, Goldfish will produce 10 updates. Chapter 1400. Inside the vast universe arc, Lin Sun sat cross-legged and preached. Beside him, 10 disciples of Lin family sat on the ground and listened carefully. With Lin Sun's current cultivation realm, it was more than enough for him to guide the cultivation of King Realm, not to mention these disciples who were only at Sea Spirit Realm. However, Lin Sun wouldn't spoil things to help them grow. Along the way of cultivation, he clearly remembered that the master led the way, but the cultivation depended on the individual. Cultivation, in the final analysis, must be sought by oneself in order to achieve something on the road of cultivation. After a few days of observation, he had roughly figured out the temperament, talent, foundation and root of this disciple of Lin family. Now when he preached, he also taught according to the aptitude of each disciple. Lin Xing Lin Sun called a name. A white-robed teenager hurriedly stood up and said, "Patriarch." Lin Sun took out a piece of thunder-purple bamboo and handed it to him. "You are tenacious and full of spirit, but too hard is easy to break. You must know how to hide your weakness. This piece of purple bamboo is left by an ancient sage, which is quite suitable for you. Take it and comprehend it." Lin Xing's body shook, and he quickly took it. "Thank you, Patriarch." As he said, he couldn't wait to look through it. Suddenly, a power of inheritance emerged in his mind. Myriad convergence sword scripture. Lin Xing's mind was soon immersed in it. Lin Yunxia. Lin Sun called another name, and a girl in a blue dress also stood up. "Your temperament is too reserved, and you lack sharpness. You must remember that cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. You must pursue the path of bravery and determination, and fight when you must. You must properly comprehend the inheritance within this purple bamboo. Lin Sun handed over a piece of thunder-purple bamboo. Next, Lin Sun took out pieces of thunder-purple bamboo and gave them to other disciples of Lin family. These thunder-purple bamboos were all obtained in the Forbidden Land of Styx, the Forbidden Land of Styx, and the purple bamboo secret realm left by Battle Emperor Wu Yang. At that time, he fought 3,000 battles in a row and defeated the imprints left in 3,000 purple bamboos. When he left, he also took more than 100 purple bamboos with him. These purple bamboos were all imprinted with a kind of ancient inheritance, which was enough to attract countless covetous people in the outside world. If they were in the outside world. But it was nothing for Lin Sun now, because he could defeat the imprint of the strong in the purple bamboo, which proved that his Taoism was more powerful. Xiefeng, you already have the cultivation of the reincarnation development realm. You only need an opportunity to advance to the king realm. Here are some of my experiences when I advanced to the king realm. Also, take these 10 king herbs. Lin Sun took out a jade slip and a sealed jade box and handed them to Lin. Lin Xiefeng's body stiffened and a touch of excitement appeared on his face. After a while, he took a deep breath and said, "Thank you, Master." Lin Xian Sun's body and, after Mountain Sun's body. With Lin Sun's mountain and Sun's face. With a smile, he Lin Sun. Sun's face. Sun's, Lin, in Sun, family, dynasty, Sun, and Lin Sun stood up and said with a smile, "I've taught you everything I can. The rest is up to your own efforts. The Tao is difficult. Only those with great perseverance can go further on the road of Tao." Lin Sun said casually and walked out of the cabin. For Lin Sun, teaching these children of Lin family to cultivate was just a trivial matter. But he didn't expect that because of today's small action, there would be many powerful figures in Lin family in the future, who would lead the way and shine in the future. A few hours later, above the void, vast universe arc suddenly stopped. On the bow, Lin Sun's clothes were fluttering, and his black eyes were fixed. On the land far away, there were countless figures fleeing. They were dense and overwhelming. Most of them were ordinary people, and their faces were full of panic and fear. As far as the eye could see, there was no end to those fleeing figures at all. "Mother, where are you? Wait for me. Run! Everyone, keep up with me!" Clamorous voices rose and fell. Those ordinary people brought their families with them. There were men and women, the old and the weak. They fled in panic, and the scene was chaotic. Lin Sun frowned. Less than a few thousand miles ahead was Mist City, the capital of the southwestern province of the empire. But now, how could there be such a scene of people fleeing? Could it be that the entire southwestern province had been seriously threatened? Whoosh! Lin Sun operated vast universe arc and continued to move forward. Before long, he met a group of practitioners who were also fleeing. They looked panicked and pale. "My friend, what happened in Mist City?" Lin Sun asked aloud. "Run. The army of evil beasts has besieged Mist City. Within a day, the whole city is doomed to fall. Yes, it's terrible. 18 demon generals led 300,000 monsters to attack the city. Wherever they pass, not even a blade of grass grows. My friend, turn around and leave. You can't go to Mist City anymore." Those practitioners spoke in a disorderly manner. As they spoke, they didn't stop at all and left in a hurry. Obviously, they were all scared to death. The demonic beast scourge has already become so serious? Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. "Patriarch, in my opinion, we can't go to southwestern province anymore." Lin Xiefeng came out and said worriedly. "Can't go?" Lin Sun said indifferently, "Xiefeng, what are we doing here?" Lin Xiefeng answered without hesitation, "To kill monsters." Lin Sun said, "In this case, knowing that there are monsters ahead, why not kill them? Or do you think that I'm not a match for those monsters with my strength?" Lin Xiefeng shook his head quickly. He was already sweating all over. He was just worried, but he never questioned Lin Sun's ability. Let's go. Only in the most dangerous battlefield can we hone our real ability. Lin Sun drove vast universe arc and flew away. Before long, the outline of the huge city of Mist City appeared between heaven and earth. After they arrived here, they noticed that more and more figures were fleeing for their lives, and they were dense like tidewater. There weren't just ordinary people who were dragging their families with them, there were many cultivators as well. Lin Sun's face was as calm as water. Without saying a word, vast universe arc rose into the air, went against the current, and entered Mist City in an instant. As far as the eye could see, the streets and alleys of the huge Mist City were deserted and deserted. Mist City was a grand event in southwestern province. When Lin Sun was young, he had lived here for a period of time. In his impression, this place was as prosperous as water, lively and noisy, with a population of millions. But now it felt like an empty city. Why are you back? Go. The governor has ordered that we will do everything we can to help you fight for the last time to escape. Don't let down the governor's efforts. In the distance, an imperial army appeared. When they saw Lin Sun and his companions, their faces darkened and they shouted angrily, asking them to leave quickly. Although it was just a rebuke, it touched Lin Sun's heart. As the governor of a province, his status was so noble. But in the face of this great disaster, he chose to stay and mobilize forces to fight against the army of monsters, just to help those fleeing people buy time. How could Lin Sun not be moved by such a great courage of being willing to die for the world? Boom! In the distance there was a burst of roars. It was the sound of fierce fighting, resounding through the sky. I can't wait any longer. Lin Sun took a deep breath and vast universe arc rose into the air. Stop. Are you crazy? Maybe he also wants to do his part for the Empire. Alas, it's just that the general trend has gone. If he stays, he is doomed to die. Seeing this, those Imperial soldiers couldn't help but be stunned, and then they all looked gloomy, revealing a kind of unspeakable sorrow. Brothers, it's time for us to move. Suddenly, someone shouted with a determined look. Let's go. Even if we die, we must kill more evil beasts. Ha ha ha, I can fight side by side with you. So what if I die? Those Imperial soldiers were all cultivators. At this time, like a group of heroes who were indifferent to life and death, they laughed together and rushed to the battlefield in the distance. Knowing that they would die, they still had to fight. In the south of Mist City, the high city tower had been stained with blood. Broken corpses were piled up, and the scarlet blood stains dyed the city wall into a dazzling red. In the sky, only 8 medium-sized Imperial battleships were struggling to hold on. Outside the city was an army of demonic beasts that were like tidewater. They covered the mountains and plains in a formidable array, and there was actually no end to them in sight. Among those monsters, there were ferocious birds with iron-like wings, beasts with bodies as big as mountains, and plants in human form. There were at least hundreds of thousands of them. Boom! The Imperial forces had been forced to the city wall and could only defend passively. It was difficult for them to protect themselves, let alone fight back. The situation was extremely dangerous. Your Excellency, please leave. The army of monsters is unstoppable. In the city tower, a group of big shots of the southwestern province looked worried and tried to persuade Governor Song Jungue, who was in the center, to leave. As long as there is life, there will be a day when we can make a comeback. Your Excellency, please leave. Everyone was burning with anxiety. Only Song Jungue's face was livid and he was silent. He was unwilling. How could he be willing to leave when he saw the monsters wreaking havoc, plunging the people into misery and suffering, killing the sons and daughters of the Empire, and making the mountains and rivers bleed with blood? In the distance, the roars of the monsters were like taunts, twisting Song Jungue's heart. He was so angry that he was about to go crazy, and his teeth were about to break. Those evil beasts. Song Jungui's beard and hair stood on end, and his eyes almost popped out. He said, "You don't have to persuade me anymore. If this city is breached, I will bury my body here and regard death as sleep." Everyone's heart sank. Boom. A medium-sized Imperial battleship was destroyed by a giant bird and fell from the sky. The situation was getting more and more dangerous. "Everyone, you can go. From now on, I will defend the city alone." Song Jungui gave the order. "If Your Excellency doesn't leave, we won't leave either." The others shouted loudly, their expressions resolute. "That's an order!" Song Jungui roared in a threatening manner. "Humph, none of you can leave." In the distant sky above the battlefield, a ferocious bird bathed in green lightning sneered. In the blink of an eye, it had already turned into a green bolt of lightning and rushed towards the city tower. The speed was so fast that it shocked the world. P.S. Going out at night, 2 consecutive updates.